Really? I don't know.
It was quite heavy.
It was persistent.
Yeah.
But it wasn't torrential. It was not, at least it wasn't falling in torrents. It was just...
Maybe at that point you were preoccupied. Either you were reading or something. The rain on Saturday in the afternoon at about 4 p.m.
It was quite heavy.
It was.
Yes, it was heavy. Maybe I don't remember. I think you have a point.
It
because
was
you're right.
heavy.
When I did step out, I noticed, and I wanted goodness. I think you tell because you still find water running. Yes.
It was quite heavy. Similar to the Friday afternoon rain as well. Yeah. So, well, I don't know. This is kind of a different January. With the kind of weather we are getting in the second week of January. So we'll have a lot of conversations this week, and today we are starting with looking back into the weekend, some things that have happened over the weekend. There's an election coming up in Uganda on Thursday. We promised that this week we'll be talking to people who understand what's happening in Uganda. So we'll start that conversation off today at 7 a.m. We'll be speaking with a journalist who is based in Uganda, who's quite outspoken, Andrew Mwenda. He'll be joining us on the line. And then at 8 o'clock, a new party has been launched, and that party is the Wheelbarrow Party. And they're already saying that they have a candidate for the Nairobi gubernatorial race. Forget about what's happening on the 15th with the vetting of Anne Mwenda Kananu. They don't care. They have a candidate, and this is Bishop Margaret Wanjiru. So we'll be speaking to the leadership of this party. You know what they're called? UDA, United Democratic Alliance.
I thought they were called the Wheelbarrow Party.
That's their symbol.
Wheelbarrow is their symbol.
Yeah.
Wheelbarrow is a symbol.
Yeah.
So I thought it was the United Democratic Wheelbarrow Party.
You wanted to throw in a W there.
You know, there's something.
Yes, I thought, okay.
So yeah, the United Democratic Alliance, their party leader is Johnston Muthama.
It's good.
So we'll be speaking to him. We want to understand this party. How different is this party from the one that you've led before? Wiper, or URP, or Jubilee, I mean, from all the other political parties, and many other things that we'll be discussing. And also, okay, so what happened over the weekend? Senator Kangata was told off indirectly. Write all the letters you want to write. I'm in charge. Speakers during the burial of Musalia Mudavadi's mother, speaker after speaker, were talking about what needs to happen in this country. Do not leave this country to some charlatans. It is not about dynasties versus hustlers. And then the hustlers were responding yesterday. Yeah, this is where we are. But as they do all those things, see, COVID is still spreading. Higher. Where has it gone to now?
Okay, so let's take a look. 87 new cases and 6 new deaths in Kenya specifically. We are looking at the 10th of January, and these are the new cases that we've seen. If we look around the world now, 98,271 is the total number of cases in Kenya, 1,710 deaths so far. So if we look at compiled numbers, we're also looking now, we have officially crossed the 90 million mark, 90,688,733 cases in the world, 1,943,090 deaths is what we are looking at. All right, let's look specifically at the United States. They too, 22,917,334 cases of what they're looking at. And they continue to, we're still looking at high numbers. What they recorded as of yesterday, 213,453 and 1,792 new deaths. It's a little bit lower than what we saw in the last couple of days, but still high numbers there. Europe also still continues to bear the brunt of these numbers, with high numbers being recorded around the UK, France, Italy, and Spain, Germany as well. But then looking south and east, India as well, still high numbers, as well as Brazil. Countries around the continent continue to have promises and also delivery of vaccines. We've seen delivery of some vaccines in West Africa. It's happening in Kenya next month. It already started in South Africa. So, I mean, the vaccine is what is bringing some hope to the minds of people.
South Africa, they already have started the vaccination?
Yes, they have.
Okay. We're still waiting for ours to come.
Yes.
Some 24 million doses.
Next month. Yes,
Next month is February, isn't it?
it is.
Yes, that's when the Minister for Health mentioned that we
We'll
did you
get,
say might or would.
Would.
we've already ordered through Africa CDC, and all indications are that it's going to be sometime next month. 24 million doses. That's it. That's as far as everything we know. What he has basically informed everyone is that is what we know. So their doses are coming, 24 million. From the experts, we know that this, you at least take 2 doses per person. So this at least means that 12 million people are going to be vaccinated. When we spoke to Professor Omwanzala, again, it's about the 3 Vs, and that's the most important part in this. So first of all, get the vaccine and get the right vaccine and understand how this vaccine is going to be reacting to people, and also the way to administer the vaccine. So the vaccine gets here. Second thing is you arrange how then do you transport the vaccine from the airport to across the country. You put up all the logistics in place. Who is going to be vaccinating people? Do they require any kind of training beforehand? Do they need to understand what they need to do? Number 3, what is the storage mechanism for this vaccine? What does it require? So the particular vaccine apparently that we are about to get is one that requires just about 3 and 4 degree storage. So that is not so bad. So, but then 3 and 4 degrees, that is just cold chain. How do you ensure you maintain cold chain from day 1 until the final day of that vaccine?
More importantly, when you talk about the vaccinations and having centers within the counties where you vaccinate, it's all good and well. There is the little detail of those who will actually perform the vaccinations.
Yep.
And there is the little detail of a strike that we actually still have ongoing.
Yep. Nurses, whom you'd expect are the ones who would be, very much involved in this, are on strike.
They actually are on strike.
Clinical officers have gone back on strike.
Yes, and then the counties have compounded this particular matter by sacking health workers. So, even as we talk about the vaccine, its arrival, it's against this background of a situation in this country where even if the vaccine were to arrive and these matters that we are mentioning have not been resolved, the beneficiaries of this vaccine may not benefit from it. Those who are slated, and even then, the details of who, how, when, who do you prioritize? When do they get the jabs? How do you go about it? These are things which are unanswered, and there seems to be a lot of, a lack of clarity as to what ought to happen or what will happen.
Sure, the communication is what is going to now, break a lot of these ceilings. It's the communication, telling people what, at this point, this is what is going to happen, who is going to get it first. Because what would happen is that if it lands here without any kind of prior communication in terms of a plan, just like what Professor Nzala was telling us, a few days ago, without a plan, you're going to throw people into some kind of potential chaos mind spin. People are going to start rushing to medical facilities hoping they can get it. Meanwhile, maybe what they had to do was wait a couple of weeks until the next batch came, kind of thing. So if they don't know, that's what's going to happen.
Anything that is going to be on a nationwide scale, really it has to be sequenced. You need to know the dates, this date and this date, this will happen here. And in a specific... And this is not something that the ministry is new to. No.
Our government basically acts like they know what they want to do and they are confident they will do it because they just operate like that parent who does not need to tell the children, this is where we are going for Christmas.
Just hold. We just know we're going somewhere.
Yeah. The parent already has a plan. This is where we are traveling for Christmas. We'll go up country. We'll start with your show from the father's side, then we'll go to show from the dad's side, and these are the dates of travel. That's all. In fact, that's what the father knows. The mother will get to know a couple of days before that. The children will get to know when they arrive. Okay? So the children don't need to understand what is your problem. There's Christmas. It's my responsibility. Chill. That's the same thing the government is doing. What is your problem? Vaccines are coming. We know we need to vaccinate 12 million people. We need what we need. We know what we need to do. Chill. Just relax. Same thing that happened with the free masks. How many million masks? 7.4 million. When you spoke to the government spokesman, what did he tell us? There's a plan on how these masks are going to be distributed. Chill.
By Friday.
Chill. Yes.
Actually, the moment you mentioned that there are
By
committees,
Friday gone.
that there are committees within the counties will receive the masks, I rested my case.
So that one is done.
I rested my case because as sure as there is night and day on the planet, okay, that particular matter mostly began and ended with that particular conversation.
That was it.
Yeah.
Yes. You see,
But you see, the fact of the matter is, if the government has already procured masks, those masks are going to be distributed. That is fact. Now, how they'll be distributed, whether they'll be distributed to the actual intended beneficiaries, whether they'll be distributed on time, whether we'll still be getting to June and there's some masks somewhere in some store somewhere because there was no plan on how they're going to get out of that store, that is secondary.
you know, you are talking about a system which, at the time when doctors were complaining about a situation where their lives were not only in danger, but there seemed to have been no plan to protect them against COVID. And part of the reason why they all went on strike, the health workers, was because of this. They said, look, we're in the front line, our lives are in danger, but there seems to be no effort to ensure that we stay safe.
Yeah.
Now, alongside this story was something even more bizarre. The sort of PPs that we're talking about were sitting somewhere in a warehouse,
Are
a
still-
KEMSA warehouse, and you're thinking, am I imagining this thing, or am I reading what is actually happening?
It's like Twilight Zone. Are we really here?
Yes.
Or somewhere else?
So it's like this emergency and the dire situation doesn't seem to hit you. So it's like you're taking your time to decide to resolve these things, and yet we have the very things that are required. And I'm thinking, but KEMSA is a government outfit. The government hospitals are which are suffering.
Would only make sense.
Yes.
That, yeah.
Well,
Complete disconnect.
That suffering bit that you're talking about, we spoke to the government spokesman one day, and did you hear what he said? No suffering at all in the government hospitals.
Everybody has what they need.
Yes.
There's a line
We
that's
spoke
being
to
told.
Governor Ongwae. Did you hear what he said?
Yes.
There's no
And
hospital
then we
that
spoke
has issues.
to the leaders of these unions, and what did they tell us?
Other stories.
So who do you believe?
Who's telling the story? Who's fooling who?
I am inclined to listen to the healthcare workers.
As am I.
I am inclined to believe what they're saying.
Yeah. Really? You don't trust your government?
Actually, put it this way.
Lay the ground there. Uh-huh.
The trust deficit keeps growing. Because arguably there is hardly anything that the government has said that they have fulfilled in doing, not by saying more, because the government fulfillment seems to be to say more. Now remember, last week was saying that in this matter of COVID, and with children specifically children going to school, let us put aside the broken promises, broken anticipations aside, and ask ourselves, what then can we do? It's still my position. My position emanates from the fact that the government will say things they won't do. That I understand. And I've understood it, and I've taken it in. It's now encased in concrete. I've understood. So, that being the case, what then do we do next?
Bas. Let's take a break at that point. 16 minutes after 6. The live stream is up. Our producer, Amrioto, is here and he's already switched it on. So Spice FM KE on Facebook, on YouTube and Twitter. Say hello to us. We'll be saying hello to you. We're seeing people online. That man from Elbagon,
He's back.
he's back, right? Hey, 17 minutes after 6. Good morning.
Have you seen am I live?
Yes, it's a very nice outfit, I must say. Good
Thank
job.
you. Asante sana.
The compliment is well received.
Good morning and thank you. Everyone in Wasingishu was asking me what channel is Spice FM.
96.7. Tell them that, right?
Yes, now they know.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Pleasure to have
What
you.
a beautiful studio, my friend.
I've been to other radio stations, but I've never seen anything like this.
Thank you, and it's very nice to be in a modern studio. Absolutely brilliant.
And I have to say, it's a very cool ambiance here in your radio room. Just for our listeners, I think it is below zero in this room here. Very Swiss temperatures.
Spice FM. Spice up your life. The
This
weather
Monday
with
morning,
Spice
it's mostly cloudy in
FM.
Nairobi. 16 degrees is what we're looking at today. 23 will be the high, and there's a 100% chance of rain through this Monday. It's mostly cloudy in Nakuru at 15, highs of 24. Lows of 13 is what will be recorded in Nyeri today. Mostly cloudy conditions going to a high of 21. 22 will be the high in Eldoret, mostly cloudy at 12. Mostly cloudy conditions in Kisumu this morning. At 17 degrees at the moment. We'll see highs of 26. 26 will also be the high in Kakamega, 14 degrees at the moment and mostly cloudy. We're also looking at mostly cloudy conditions in Mombasa at 24. We're looking at a high of 30. Highs of 25 is what is happening in Malindi today. 15 degrees and mostly cloudy at the moment, and 50% chance of rain in Malindi this morning. It's mostly cloudy in Kampala, stepping out of Kenya. We'll see highs of 24 and lows of 19. Also mostly cloudy conditions in Dar es Salaam, highs of 30 and lows of 26. Johannesburg is mostly cloudy, giving way to rain later, highs of 25 and lows of 16. The lows will be 25 in Lagos this morning, mostly cloudy conditions with highs of 32. Kinshasa is clear this morning at 23, 30 the high and lows of 23. It's a little bit warmer in Beijing this morning, -1 and sunny conditions. Through the afternoon, we're looking at highs of 1 and lows of -8. Cloudy conditions in Paris this morning, now below freezing, -3 going to highs of 5. It's also cloudy in London at 5, highs of 9, coming back down to lows of 5. Clear skies Sunday night in New York, coming into Monday morning. We'll see highs of 5 and lows of -4.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM,
It's 20
Nairobi.
minutes after 6 o'clock. Happy Monday, everybody. It's the 11th day of January 2021. Live streaming on Spice FM KE, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. And also www.spicefm.co.ke. Who's online?
Everybody, it would seem. Stephen Osorio is up and running, he says this morning. As is Benson Kiplagat, who says already tuned in from Daraweta, Bomet County. Welcome back to the second week of the year. Bay Wamacha is tuned in, as is Muyoka Aiwa from Kibra, following keenly. Minneapolis is tuned in with Waterman Jeffrey. And John from Elbergen is back and says, good morning. Good morning. Charity is tuned in from Nakuru. Moses Gashari says the vaccine is the next scandal in Kenya. He also says that UDA took on Ndani Ndani. Well, there you go.
Oh, he's already a member of the... He's in the wheelbarrow.
It would appear he's in it or pushing it.
Okay.
All right. Master Dan is spicing from Beijing. And Ainley Steve is tuned in this morning and says, good morning, blessed week ahead. Honorable Reagan Hanskel Nyandinga says, good morning, tuned in from Homa Bay. And Alex is tuned in from Nyeri. Many more people online, but good morning, everybody.
Good morning, everybody, and thank you very much for tuning in. We'll be saying hello to you as we continue the show. CT, this Monday, what is the day's proverb?
Indeed. Dine with a stranger, but save your love for your family.
Dine with the stranger.
Oh, dine. Okay.
Not dying.
Not die in. Nah? Dine, one word. Yes, not
Dying with a stranger.
I was like, what?
Yes, not, as Kiswahili would say, not si kufa ndani, kula na.
Okay.
Dine with a stranger.
But save your love for your family.
I like it.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So let's look at the headlines. Talking about saving your love for the family. Give us the update on this particular one.
It's a big one. Okay. So we're looking at the mystery of the Kiambu killer. Troubled or a diligent planner? And, you know, in terms of following up on the investigation and the details, we were told that this is what was going to happen. I'm going to take this story from the pages of the Nation today, right? Just over a week ago, Lawrence Joroge Warunge sat on a bench under Jane Wamboi's eatery and ordered a cup of tea and mandazis for lunch. He left without paying. Jane runs a shop and a small eatery just a few meters from the Warunge home in Kiamba's Karura village, Kiambu County. She serves tea, mandazis and chapatis and mostly targets construction workers. On this occasion, Lawrence, who loved to eat there, had taken a break from sweating it out at a construction site belonging to a man who he bought land from, one of his uncles. Now, looking at the story as it went along, he is no stranger in Karura, but neighbors know very little about the murder suspect. He is now a suspect, all right? In multiple interviews carried across yesterday, Lawrence was a loner who spoke to no one, and this is what they were able to find out. Nobody can attest to ever seeing Lawrence do anything out of the ordinary. Police yesterday hinted that the Mount Kenya University student loved his share of marijuana. His uncle, Alan Njiro, on the other hand, said he suspected the suspect had a mental problem because a few years ago he reported his mother to a local police station claiming that she was trying to poison him. Last Monday, hours before meeting their deaths, the Warunges had woken up and taken 2 of their school-going children to their respective institutions. Annie escorted one of her children to a school in Kirinyaga, while her husband Nicholas took the other to a school within Karura village. Lawrence was believed to have reported back to the university where he's pursuing a degree in information technology. Later that evening, according to police, Lawrence returned home and butchered his family, save for the 2 siblings that had reported back to their boarding schools.
Now, as the story has unfolded over the weekend, the man is in custody. The man has been arrested. The man has taken police to places in all the way Mai Mahiu, where apparently it's his girlfriend's rural home. But they had rented out a room at a place nearby where they stayed for only 12 days.
Where she is said to have brought he ordered now the knives which he used to kill his family, and she's the one then who brought them to him. And it was through her that police now started to piece the clues together, because they were able to then to trace to her house from where she now purchased the knives and then sent him a message that she had done so.
Hey.
Okay.
When I heard this story the first time, when we heard it the first time, we were wondering how many people were involved in this. How many, clearly there was an insider who the family trusted.
To the family, absolutely.
But also, by the time somebody is actually butchering adults and there's no sound being heard, especially that mason who lives in the nearby house, you can imagine Mtu wa Mjengo is not somebody who's weak, so just come and be killed just like that. And then the father, and then the mother, and the children, and not a sound.
Not a sound.
What I find strange is it's like you're on a killing spree, and as per this report, you're one person. So what are the others doing? Spectating as you're killing the others?
This is very interesting.
Who are the others?
Who are the others, though?
No, I'm saying this family.
Oh, sure.
So you see,
or did he kill them all at once? How is that possible?
You see, the way it's sounding, it's like he started off first of all with the mason in his house. So he went to the mason in the house, found him, clobbered him on his head, fell down, and then slit his throat. So first of all, he beats you, you fall down, he hits you on the head, you fall down,
so you're
slits your throat.
Yeah.
Then he came to the house, found the mother in the kitchen, did the same. Hit her on the head, she fell down, throat. Went upstairs, found one of the children, did the same. The father had the commotion. So the father was trying now to jump. The father jumped off the balcony and fell down, and he came back down.
He was incapacitated here.
Did the same.
The funny
Went and
thing
found the
is,
younger
though,
brother. The younger brother was kneeling down. According to him, the younger brother knelt down and pleaded with him to spare his life. He didn't. Hit him, slit the throat.
And we remember we had the conversation as to why stab the father 34 times.
Yep.
Because you do this 34 times. This is not just because you wanted to end his life. This is also because you wanted to inflict some kind of pain or suffering upon this gentleman. And now, speaking to him later, he then said to police that he did not like the way in which his parents treated him vis-a-vis his sisters. Now, remember, of the younger boys, one of them had been adopted, right? They were not biological children. But he said that the treatment accorded to him was often malicious, and he had been harboring this for a long time. Now, I can see the wheels in your mind turning, CT, to ask what was really going on with this young man. It was interesting because they've also found out that over the last 3 months, he was reading certain books and watching certain series of how to perform the perfect murder. And he gave up all of this information to police. So he watched this series for 3 months. He read this book end to end several times, he said. And this is how he was able to then carry it out. So he felt very bitter. He was very slighted about how, according to him, he was treated by his parents. And remember that also, his father did not reside here. His father resided in the US as a nurse. According to the explanation he was then giving to police, he did not like the way in which he was treated, and this was the only out.
This story just took a complete unexpected turn.
Unexpected completely. But you remember what the police said? That they felt that there was a family feud here. And they had
by family feud,
they had a feeling that there was somebody in the family who was involved.
But not son.
Wow.
Even when you look back, you're thinking, all right, family feud, it's something to do with the siblings of the...
An uncle, cousin, somewhere, right?
Of the parents, just going by the history of the brothers of this particular man who had been attacked previously. One of them walks around with a bullet lodged in his thigh. The other one was hit somewhere in town. So you're thinking, it's the same. There's somebody who's after this Mr. Warunge's family. Not that the Warunges have a son who may want them dead. That's a complete twist. I was like, huh? How is that? But also that tells you something about the police. That within days, they were actually able to piece together and speak to this young... Of course, you can't imagine that the first time they went to speak to him, Pole sana, you've lost you. Like, I killed them.
Of course not.
Yeah. So for them to actually detect there's something here, we need to pursue. And within hours, they're able to actually tell that, yes, the man is confessing. The woman is also telling the side of the story. It's very good work. It's very, very, very good work. Kudos to the cops.
I would say too. But this all, is telling of some serious... it's clear here that there's something going on with this young chap. It's very clear that in terms of, his mental state also, there's a problem here. Not knowing what he was involved in, whatever it is, pain that he says he was feeling, never having been put out into the open, never having spoke to his parents about it. And he felt that the only way to deal with whatever suffering he was going through was to take the lives of 5 people.
It would be...
But this suffering that he went through, is it detailed as to what this suffering was?
No, all he says is that his sisters were always given preferential treatment by the parents, and his parents didn't like his girlfriend. Same girlfriend who bought the knives for him to perform this act.
Yeah.
In terms of details, we don't have any more right now.
He's in university. He's gone through school. He lives with his parents in his home.
Yeah.
That's how he was able to access the home so easily. It's because he hasn't been banished.
They took care of him.
Thou art banished. 6:30. Let's take a look at traffic and then continue looking at other headlines. Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life.
Thank you.
The political class, the contestants, everybody is trying to outsteal the other.
Remorse is not taught in any school. Manners is something you get from your mother. You don't get it from your political party.
Why are we so unfocused as a country? Why are we spending money and resources? Yet we have real challenges in this country.
This coronavirus pandemic should teach us one thing, that universal healthcare is critical. Because at this point, whether you have a medical card that covers you, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Traffic.
All right, let's take a look at what the roads are looking like this morning, shall we? All right. It looks like traffic on Pangani this morning, at Pangani rather, already, and that's building up, trying to get into the CBD. All right, so for a suggestion, you might want to veer off and then use Wangari Maathai Road to get into the city. If you're not in public transport, that is an option for you to use to be able to get into the CBD without too much of an issue. Coming off of Thika Road, there's a problem there, and it's moving very, very slowly this morning, so you might want to look out for that one. Mombasa Road is building up, and outbound towards the city today, also looking a bit slow as you're trying to get out there. That's expected, right about 6:30, getting into the second week of going back to school and all such things. So that's what lies ahead. We're going to see how this builds up till around 7 o'clock. But for now, if you're out, you probably get there in good time. If you're not, now would be the time to leave. We'll keep an eye around the city and see what's flowing or what's not, and do that for you. Right now, the eastern and southern bypasses can be used. Spice FM KE, that's how you can talk to us on Twitter or text on 40127.
Sugar and spice and everything nice. Everything nice.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right.
It's 27 minutes to 7.
Spice FM,
Again,
Nairobi.
Just be saying hello to everybody who's online.
Omoro Vincent, good morning to you. And Shirage has boarded the commuter train and he's headed into the CBD.
Good.
Ondicho is tuned in, as is Brian Amakanga. He's tuned in from Kapsabet town in Chepsui village. Benson Momo.
He's in town in village.
He's tuned in from Kapsabet town, Chepsui village. That's what he said. I'm just reporting.
So Chepsui village of Kapsabet town. Other towns have estates.
Okay. Benson Momo is tuned in as well, as is Haran Stakus, tuned in from Migori. Polisi Junior Atetwe. I can never get it right. Pamoja at Lukume, Cabras.
He's in Cabras.
Yeah.
That name always, I like that name.
Where they make sugar.
Cabras. Yes.
Okay, got it.
I used to hear it when we were doing those salams on KBC. Salams, there's somebody who used to be a very popular person on those salams shows from Cabras.
Could be the same guy.
Maybe not. Maybe not.
It represents a people. It also represents a geographical area.
Location.
So the people called Cabras.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Okay.
They speak Cabranis.
Oh, wow. Moving on.
Jose Maina is asking you a question. Ndu?
Yes.
Ndu. Are you married though? Tuned in from Malindi.
I like Malindi.
You like Malindi?
Yeah.
I like that response. I really like that response. Set your own question and then provide an appropriate answer.
Okay. So other headlines in the papers this morning. So schools reopened last week, and the government says that it's gonna. So this is not what the government is saying now. The government said this even before schools reopened. The president made this announcement earlier and said we are going to make sure that we will work with the national government officers, the county officers, the parents, and all to ensure that all children get back to school. So now there's a door-to-door search for learners in week 2, and this is the story that's been given some proper coverage on page 2 of the Standard this morning. Learners are today trooping back to schools for the second week after braving a week-long trial of new norms. School managers continue to grapple with the reality of learners reporting without school fees, the requisite COVID-19 mitigation gear like masks and hand sanitizers. Now, the boys and girls who have not reported back to school, the onus is now on parents and especially the administration officials to go door to door and find out why has this child not gone back to school. Various reasons will emerge. 1, school fees. 2, child got married. 3, child got a baby. 4, child got another job. 5, child has just switched off from school. All those, whatever the reason, find a way to persuade the learner to go back to school. This is not an easy one because there are very many other, those factors are not small time factors. So there's even a story on how then you're going to help the children who are coming back to school, and they, let's say, those that got pregnant and they got babies, How do you help them to come back to school? The back page of The Nation is talking about special facilities for teen moms in schools. Some schools have put in place special measures to help thousands of girls who got pregnant during the long break and teen mothers to return to their studies, from organizing special meals for them, redesigning bathrooms, and often offering medical care and psychological support. Schools want the girls to enjoy their time in class. Now, this is something. For example, an example here given in Homa Bay County, a psychosocial support center has been set up in Ndiwa town to counsel students with learning challenges, including pregnant girls and teenage mothers. It'll also offer support to boys who abandon books to engage in income-generating activities. According to Ndiwa MP Martin Owino, his office is working together with local churches to ensure all girls go back to school. Now, this is what we said. Leadership, work with local community, see what can we do. This is one very good example by Ndiwa MP Martin Owino, who's saying they're just working with the churches. In Migori County, some schools have made arrangements to provide special meals. Kamsaki Girls Secondary School Principal Jael Onyango told The Nation that the plan is to help meet the special dietary needs of expectant mothers. At St. Albert's Ulanda Girls, there is a policy for antenatal care for expectant learners. The principal, Finora Buyengo, said the school is equipped with special bathrooms as well as close supervision from the guidance and counseling department. Very good news.
Absolutely.
In Kisii, Kereri Girls High School has partnered with RAM Hospital to give specialized attention to pregnant students, the principal, Teresa Otieno, said. Atieno.
I think it's a good thing that we see this effort that's taking place here to make sure that children go back to school. I was in a chat forum over the weekend, and the question is, why is there this push by the government? I mean, if you're at home with your child and for whatever reason you're not able to take your child to school, let it be. But I think this is a good thing that the government is insisting that children go back to school, because like we said, the reasons as to why they shouldn't go, or the opinions that people held before, we're not going to even discuss that now, because guess what? Schools have opened.
Yep. Now,
here's an opportunity to learn once again. And I think it is actually the job of the government to make sure that children, learners, are educated. So this push to make sure that you go back to school and you are learning, I think is a good thing. I do think so.
Actually, it's a fantastic thing. And that, our CS for Interior has actually brought it to the fore and is making it mandatory. That's even better. So this bull in a China shop approach is useful in such time, because many children, over the time when children were at home, we reported this. And I even gave you an example of a friend of mine who's a head teacher in Fangano, told me that the problems they were facing. Girls have gone and gotten married.
Yep.
Young men have become fishermen.
Yeah.
They are
Boys
not going to go. This is
become
going back to
elsewhere.
school, they do not see.
Yep.
Now, when the government takes such a position, they must be lauded and they must be praised for it, because it's a good thing. And it's a sort of positive thing that the government could do if only they could take this same attitude
on everything else.
Let's just start with health workers first.
But let's also look at, so the government comes up with this directive and says, everybody go back to school, okay? Then there's what the local community does. Look at all these head teachers who are saying, so this is what we've done. Our school, we've partnered with this hospital to ensure that we're giving antenatal care to these girls. We have partnered with the local churches to ensure that we can also give them special we can meet their special dietary needs. We understand that you have come in, you have a child who is about 3 months old, 2 weeks old, however old, right? And you're here and you're attending school. So we need to also remember that and take care of that. Just the fact that there's a headmaster, headmistress somewhere who's thinking this way, that there's a BOM head that is thinking this way, that there's a local community, local leadership, churches and all that are thinking this way. Perfect. Because then it complements what the government is trying to do. Can you imagine if the government was just saying, okay, go back to school.
Yeah.
And then you get back to school and you're finding this young man who's coming, he was used to earning 50 shillings every day. Now you're telling him spend an entire day without anything. And the reason why he started working in the first place is because his family needed that extra income. He goes back home in the evening, that extra income is not there. So what's happening to him, his siblings and his parents? If you don't think about that holistically, we are not going to solve it. And this is where the community comes in. And these efforts are laudable.
Absolutely. And it can continue.
Yep.
It can absolutely continue.
Yes.
Okay. So there is more going on. Doctors in private facilities in Mombasa to go on strike.
From today, eh?
Yes.
So today, no healthcare at all. in Mombasa County.
So the public folks went on strike, right?
And then their colleagues were fired.
And the colleagues were fired.
Right.
Now the private saying that if the county does not rescind its decision to sack 86 of their colleagues in public facilities, they will go on strike today. The Kenya Medical Association and union officials said services at the private hospitals will be paralyzed if no agreement has been reached by today. KMA Mombasa Division Chairman Ibrahim Matende said leaders who are tasked with resolving the health crises cannot continue to enjoy services in private facilities, yet they have failed to offer leadership. So you can't come into the private facilities when you know you should have done something about these fellows in the public arena, and then you want to come here and get services? Absolutely not. Fix that before you then come and get fixed here. It is unfair to subject the poor to suffering in government hospitals while their leaders are enjoying medical services in private facilities. So the Kenya Medical Practitioners, Pharmacists and Dentists Union Secretary General Chibanzi Machonda criticized governors for not signing a return to work formula that they had agreed on. According to Machonda, and I quote, "We will mobilize all doctors in private and government hospitals to go on strike next week to demonstrate to our leaders that doctors can work in unity." And that was what he said before this directive then was given by the KMA.
Let's see how this one pans out. Because you can imagine the management of private hospitals in Mombasa County. All right? You already have patients who are admitted.
Yep.
You already have patients who've come in and you are providing a service. Yep. And then suddenly, your workers who are not members of a union tell you that we are going on strike in solidarity with those in public hospitals who are members of a union. So you as a private hospital manager, what do? Do you tell them, I understand? Or do you also now, are you also going to get to that point where you say, okay, guys, I can give you 3 hours, but in the afternoon I want you here. Because I'm not party to that whole hullabaloo that's happening there. I've got services here, I've got clients in this hospital who require your services. And they're already here. We admitted them. In fact, you signed their admission as a doctor. Now here you are, you're saying you're not going to attend to them. It's not because of anything it's not because of a dispute between me and you. So how do you support them as a hospital manager? Do you tell them, all right, it's okay, it's solidarity?
How?
Let's see how this one pans out.
It'll be very interesting.
Yes.
In the same vein, governors are now saying they're weary of the deal with nurses. They're saying the efforts to end strikes have been hampered by a standoff between the national and county governments. So now, see, blame, shift, go. The two levels of government have not agreed on who should shoulder the financial responsibility for a deal that has been struck with striking nurses. The agreement would have seen the nurses get a 15,000 shilling risk allowance. The push and pull has been occasioned by the clinical officers and doctors' return to work formulas, which counties, through the Council of Governors, have since distanced themselves from. Clinical officers resumed their strike Friday after governors failed to implement the return to work deal they signed with the Ministry of Health. The formula also adds a financial burden to counties with clauses on compensation to those who have succumbed to COVID-19 or spent their money on medical bills. So, according to the deal, all nurses who have been hospitalized and have paid their own bills due to the absence of comprehensive medical insurance cover shall be refunded the funds they have spent on treatment by employers within the two levels of government herein. This might not work because, according to the COG, we don't have money. If the national government signed this deal with you, then they should provide the money. We, as county, we are your employers, yes, but we don't have the money to do this, which is essentially what they're saying. So there's a standoff between government, a national government and county government. And Oparanya says that they were not at the signing ceremonies of the two previous deals, and the return to work formula for doctors was signed. However, he wrote a letter to Kagwe in a tone suggesting that the formulas above the individual agreements was with their healthcare workers and that they were not present. So there's a problem here. And still continues to be the problem, which is what was cited the week before. But still, they're holding on to this one and saying, you guys signed on our behalf. We don't have the money to do this, so...
Wouldn't the simple solution be to simply revert back to factory settings and just take the entire health services back to the national government?
This devolution for health is not working.
You see, I think we need to have that conversation nicely and properly. Okay, how do we manage healthcare? So first of all, when you said to take it back to the national government, this national government is not at any better, right? It's not going to guarantee anything. Secondly, when we say that the Health Services Commission will also bring in issues, so how can we have a conversation that says, how do you manage the health workers across the country so that you ensure that there's proper working conditions for them? But at the same time, how do you ensure that health services are being provided the best way possible?
You see where the problem...
And we get the full benefit of devolution. Because I think if you just remove all this back and forth, there's something that has happened in healthcare since devolution.
You see, this fragmentation that we refer to as devolution sometimes, as it is, see, you then get embroiled in discussions around issues back and forth between 2 or 3 entities.
Yeah.
This is really my thinking, that if it were just the national government, this back and forth will not exist. It will be the national government and the health workers direct.
But I'm also thinking
there's no buffer in between.
We are falling into the trap of the national government. Remember, there are very many people, and we've had these conversations very many times, where there seems to be a lack of willingness to cede control by the national government.
It isn't seeming.
Control.
It is something that they have done.
Yes.
It's clear.
So this could be one of those. First of all, healthcare is one of those that receives a lot of funding, both direct from our own budget and from external funding. So the national government tries to have all this control of what is happening in the county level. If you actually devolved health and ensured that you're not doing anything on health, yours is policy level at the national level, and that's all. Devolve everything. That means you'd have more funds going to the counties to take care of health. Secondly, then you can now have the conversation of, can you have a health services commission that looks at how to harmonize what is it that a healthcare worker should get across the country? Not that the person is one who is hired by the Health Services Commission. They can be hired by the County Public Service Board, yes, but then there's that commission whose job is the policy at national level.
I like that you said if you actually devolve health, because that's what we're talking about here. Because we can say that it's been devolved and we know that there's devolution, but devolution has not occurred with health. It hasn't. The strings are still being pulled, and it's clear that is what is happening.
Actually, it isn't just health. Devolution itself has not devolved.
Has not evolved.
Or evolved.
No, it hasn't. Because then, if you just pay attention to some of the details and the discussions around the actual ensuring that funding gets to the counties, there's always a game being played there.
Yeah.
Counties never quite get their share. They never quite get what it's agreed on. It's always delayed. There's always an if-miss issue here and there. Health just happens to be a subset of this bigger picture.
Yep. Now you can imagine as we speak, actually, now that you said that, 3 months of not receiving money that you ought to be receiving from the national government is forcing county heads to go to the financial sector and borrow, which means that when this money comes from the national treasury, it's going to pay interest for loans that they should have borrowed in the first place.
And interest they shouldn't even be paying.
Interest they shouldn't be paying. So the money that is actually coming to the county, what is going to the actual operations of the county is less because we borrowed and we paid interest. Nonsense. 11 minutes to 7 o'clock.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life.
Spice and everything nice. All right.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right.
All right.
94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Well, what we have is company registration surge on COVID job cuts. Now, this is a report from the data from the Registrar of Companies. It shows that business names registered between April and November rose by 58.5%. From
April to November.
Yeah, to 65.782 compared to, well, should we say
previous year, same period.
Yes. What this means is that many more people.
This is business names.
Yes, business names means people
All right.
are seeking to do businesses that previously they had not been doing.
And not because when you think of business name, this is those sole proprietorships and all, not
It is.
properly
No.
limited companies.
Nope,
and such.
just business names. But this also tells you when someone is no longer employed and they have to survive, they then revert to seeking business, to doing business. And the way you do it legally is by setting up a company. But the thing is, during such times of great turmoil and tribulation, history has shown us is when perhaps some of the greatest inventions come about.
Absolutely.
They say necessity is the mother of all invention.
Yep.
So people think, as they say, laterally, outside the box, as we like calling it. And things that they ordinarily wouldn't have considered, they now have to consider because this alternate reality has become the real reality, if I may use such a phrase. And if you are to survive, then you cannot think and plan the way you've thought and planned before. And part of the problems that we're having and why there's a continuum of problems is that we are trying to solve current problems, which in and of themselves are new, with old solutions. Unfortunately, they can't be solved that way.
Sure, as we see business names being registered left, right, and center, the unfortunate bit is that it's so difficult or so cumbersome and tiring to wind up a business, right? So you will not see the number of companies that have actually gone to seek to be wound up.
Yes.
With the registrar of companies, because you're thinking, okay, so when you're trying to, you're registered a company. When you're trying to wind it, oh my goodness, you have to go and to KRA to do what, clear with them. So it's people just decide. I used to have a business, forget it. Just forget. I'm not operating.
Just forget that it happened.
I'm not operating under that name anymore. Move on. So it's also possible that these business names are very many, and it's very true that many people then went to seek to start up something. Then there are very many that also closed down at the same time, but we cannot tell how many. It will be difficult for us to actually get the actual data of how many businesses have gone under during this time. How many businesses are no longer in operation during this time?
What is certain is that when it is acknowledged fully and appreciated that the times we're in have completely altered and that there is nothing normal about the time. We talk about it, but the actual acceptance and living within that reality is something that is not really witnessed. Because a lot of the hue and cry you hear have to do with nostalgia more than anything else. It's like, oh, life used to be this way, it's now changed. No, it hasn't changed. This is it. Yes, the change occurred a long time ago.
Yep.
What you're seeing is the manifestation of the reality of that particular change. And it is not going anywhere. Even if COVID were to stop miraculously today, those changes would still be with us. It's not as though they would go elsewhere.
They're here to stay.
No, they're here to stay. Something that happened over the weekend that is worth mentioning.
Right.
The Daily Nation says, after Uhuru, the Star says Ruto tells Uhuru to stop blackmail.
Standard says,
you tell me.
Uhuru DP clash.
Yes. So, again, our politics has taken a nice, interesting twist. The thing that I noted, a lovely funeral, a lovely send-off for Mama Hannah. But the luminaries who stood up to speak did not eulogize her. They politicked.
Yeah, it was a perfect... In fact, I was somebody and they were commenting, hey, surely, is this a funeral or is it a political rally?
Yep.
And I was like, sure, this lady is 95 years old, okay? 95. She has lived her life. She was the wife of a politician. She was the mother of a politician. She's used to this. And
so you're saying it's a fitting send-off?
Yes. And she was 95. Everybody agrees she'd lived a full life. So they're here to say, we appreciate Mama. We came here. She used to serve us. She used to talk to us. I knew the lady. I knew from the late Mudamba Mudavadi. This is how we interacted. Uhuru comes up and says, would pass by here and she'd serve us. She'd even host us, give us a place to sleep. Then continue into the politics. I think there was that balance of them not feeling that, they really have. Then there were those younger ones who didn't really have a direct connection to the Mama. Their connection is with Musalia. So So there was a lot of politics, yes. Speaker after speaker, from senators to members of parliament to cabinet secretaries to the president to the former prime minister, all of them were saying the same thing. It's about uniting the country. It's about ensuring that this country is not left to some people after Uhuru. It's about talking about, so are we dynasty? Because that's what they were saying. We are not dynasty. They're accusing us. And if you remember this Mama Hannah, where she's come from, she is not dynasty.
So you want to ask yourself, all the people who attended this funeral, did they attend for attending the funeral, or did they attend to be able to pass on messages and make statements?
May I add to that question that you asked? When you attend a funeral of someone prominent and a prominent politician, what do you expect?
So
I'm talking about this country.
To come and pay
What
respects.
do you expect? Oh, coming to pay respects is because you are there.
Yeah.
So you've come to pay respects. Now,
President alone
however,
has paid respect.
But while you're there,
let's deal with one,
there's
two,
this
or three
lovely
stones.
audience, and now that is present. Surely, do you let that audience just go?
Do you let that opportunity
You don't
fly out the
let it
window?
go.
No, you don't.
But I think they harped on that issue of Hasler dynasty for a bit too long.
Yeah.
And then they fell into their own trap, because when the president came out and said, also went ahead with the issue of Hasler dynasty and said, kama nivo mnasema basi, then I can also say then the two tribes have led this country forever, then it's about time for another tribe. Then kama nivo mnasema. It was picked up by the DP side yesterday, and they're like, we did not support you because you're Kikuyu. So now it has gone back, these.
But Eric,
if it's not going to be a Kikuyu that you support in the next election, the Mr. President, so who is it? That's the headline in the nation.
But Eric, that is where now the political lies come in. We are fully aware of the tribal affiliations of all our political leaders.
Yes.
And the discourse about how to vote is and has and will continue to be for a long time based on tribal lines. Those are just the facts. However, correct political speak demands that we deny all this.
Of course.
Yeah.
And talk out both sides of your mouth.
Correct political. We'll deny the reason why we come together. Why do we have this coalition of these particular leaders? It's because you're looking at the number of people in their tribe who they can convince, so they become voters. That's it. But and also, if you want to change the narrative and say, okay, so let's not go the tribal way, let's look at it from a different way. Also, that have it. I loved Martha Karua when she stood up to speak. She was like, look, just because somebody is opposed to BBI does not mean they are pro. She wanted to say Ruto, then she skipped the word Ruto. She said pro some other people. Good morning. It's now 7 o'clock. In the next hour, we cross over to Uganda.
Spice FM, Nakuru. Traffic.
All right, so this is the week, guys. This is when traffic starts very early on a Monday morning. There's an accident that has occurred on Thika Road this morning, right around Garden City, involving 3 vehicles already. So use the service lane from Roysambu because of that Garden City accident. Mombasa Road jam is thicker than porridge, we're told, from Mlolongo inbound, bumper to bumper already. And this is past the weighbridge, coming down all the way past the SGR outbound, then towards the construction that's going on right around Cabanas and then out towards General Motors. It slows down just a little bit, but then after that it picks up well again through to Nyayo Stadium roundabout. Uhuru Highway then into the CBD is jam-packed. Coming off of Langata Road and Gong Road at the moment, not too bad, but as you get to the roundabouts and then getting into the CBD, it's going to clog up just some. Jogger Road heading towards Landis Road is also moving very slowly into the CBD. That's a quick shot about what's going on in terms of traffic. Let's take a look at about half an hour or so and see how that might have changed. Not to forget, Spice FMKE. That's how you can get in touch with us on Twitter or text 40127.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This
All
is
right,
the
it's
Situation
2.5
Room.
minutes after 7.
The only way
Thank you
to
very
start
much for tuning in to the Situation Room this and every weekday morning. We broadcast from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. And we also live on KTN Home from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. A very good morning to all our audience on KTN Home and online on Spice FM KE, YouTube, Facebook and Twitter, www.spicefm.co.ke. And on our regional frequencies, Nairobi is 94.4, it's 87.9 in Mombasa. We are in Kisumu on 102.5, in Nakuru 96.0, Eldoret 96.7, Nyeri 90.9, and 97.7 in Malindi. CT Muga, as we begin this and every hour, what is today's proverb?
Dine with a stranger, but save your love for your family.
Dine with a stranger, but save your love for the family. Okay.
Simple, but give it a little more thought. The application is even more interesting if you think about it.
One example of the application.
Well, think of the family unit. What is going to constitute it? Blood relatives, the place in which you live, the community around you, your church affiliation, your political affiliation. Yes. If you broaden that scope, then, and think about how then do you accommodate people that you're not familiar with? Because that really is the definition of a stranger. And how do you contextualize it within this particular background that I have mentioned?
Okay.
Okay.
How do you prioritize relationships?
Family first.
Family comes first. Blood is thicker than water, so to speak. Okay. So let's talk about what's going to happen in Uganda in a couple of days' time. On Thursday, they will go to an election. Among the things that they'll be doing is picking a new president or extending the term of the current president. So if you just went into Google and just did a casual search of Uganda elections, so UN News 2 days ago, Uganda deteriorating human rights situation in run-up to elections. That is according to the UN News. The Guardian, this is Africa's generational cause, says Uganda's election challenger. Uganda elections 2021, how ex-rebel Yoweri Museveni has stayed in power for 35 years, according to the BBC News 1 day ago. Voice of America, 14 hours ago, UN officials say fair elections unlikely in Uganda. NPR, which is also American, Ugandans worry insurrection in DC may affect elections in their own backyard. Of course, we know the East African that was published last week. The EA Law Society threatens legal action over Uganda election violence. Daily Monitor 16 hours ago, Uganda should learn from Kenya experience on election violence. BBC. So it's all about that. So we were talking about this on Friday, and we said what the presidential challenger Chagulanyi, a.k.a. Bobby Wine, has sent his family out of the country for safety. And he says it's because he had received what he considered as credible intelligence that there were plans afoot to visit harm on his family. So he decided it's better if they're not around. But the president has spoken. The presidential spokesperson, the government spokesperson has also talked and said, you know, when we are dealing, for example, with asking the media on how to cover, there's a reason why we're doing this. There's a lot of justification being given. President Kaguta Museveni has even given interview to international media, and he says, you know, I have been on this seat for so long. I have got experience. I know, for example, when something starts, how it's going to lead. So when I ask my officers to take action, it's because I know I have seen it before. As we go into this election, there's a lot that, you know, is happening in Uganda. And from, you know, just looking at international media, then you can just think that this Ugandan election is just going to be full of violence and, a lot of malpractice. But what's the situation on the ground? Let's cross over to Uganda, Kampala, and speak to a journalist who is there, and his name is Andrew Mwenda. Andrew is a journalist. He's also an author, and he joins us now from Uganda. Good morning, Andrew.
Good morning, and I'm glad to be hosted by Spice FM. I hope you'll spice things up.
We're hoping you'll join us in the spicing things up.
Andrew, it appears that things are already quite spiced up right now in Kampala. From what we're seeing, it seems that temperatures have already risen or continue to rise in the run-up to the Thursday election.
The first sentence is correct. The second is wrong. Temperatures have risen and continue to rise. Yes, temperatures have been rising, but now they have been going down. I think that the state and I think the NRM partly have achieved some degree of toning down of the violence. There was a time when it was in November 18th and 19th, there was so much violence in Kampala. But now that has subsided significantly.
And why, how would you explain this? What is it that has made it subside? And as I'm asking this, I'm also asking what made it rise in the first place?
I think, first, Ugandan elections have historically been characterized by a lot of violence. If you look at 2001 and 2006 and 2016, the only election that I can remember was peaceful was 2011. But all the other elections have had significant violence. I'm even inclined to believe that 2006 and 2001 may have been more violent than this specific election because the violence then was widespread. That is one. Two, I think what has made this one distinctly violent is there has been considerable decline in the political organization of the ruling party called NRM. In the absence of a party structure able to pursue a peaceful campaign, the government of President Yoweri Museveni has sought to rely heavily on the state, specifically on the state instruments of coercion and repression, the army and the police, to police the election, or for that matter, to undermine or undercut the efforts of its opponents. And that has meant that what NRM, the absence of NRM, has led to the dominance of the state, which is the military and the police. The second thing that has made this election quite violent is that you have a fresh candidate who is young. He's aged 38. President Museveni is 76. So President Museveni is double the age of Bobby Wine or Robert Kyagulanyi, his former name. Two, he is new in politics, so he's fresh. Previous candidates against Museveni have either been from the old order or came with Museveni from the bush. This is the first time we have somebody who is totally from an old, rather totally fresh, has never been in politics before, coming to contest. Three, Bobby Wine is a very popular musician, so he has always had a very strong brand. Wherever he goes, he has to attract a lot of crowds. Whether those people support him politically or not, what we know is that he has a very strong entertainment brand. So he has a great entertainment value that adds to his politics. And finally, Bobby Wine comes from the largest tribe in Uganda, which lives in the center of the country, the Baganda. He comes from the largest religion in Uganda, the Catholics. And finally, he grew up in the ghetto, where the young and dispossessed of Uganda come from, and therefore they identify with him, and has lived his entire life by articulating their grievances. So Bobby Wine has provided a strong catalyst to the social dynamite that has always existed in urban and semi-urban areas of Uganda. And is the representative, yes.
Andrew, you mentioned...
He's a spokesperson of all the social frustrations that many young Ugandans who are either employed, underemployed, or unemployed face. And that is what makes him a powerful phenomenon. And if a person like that comes, he has also been able to master social media. His people are very strong on social media. The NRM government is really Jurassic. It believes in the age of Pangea 60 million years ago when dinosaurs ruled the world. It doesn't understand social media. So the absence on social media also means they have very limited share of voice, and he has a large platform on which he can rally and mobilize people. Yeah.
So many questions come from what you said, Andrew. But I mean, first of all, earlier you mentioned that Museveni has leaned on state agencies like the military and the police. Why would he have to do this? Why would he have to lean on their help?
Because, and here I would blame the president of Uganda personally, he has emasculated his own political party. I think between 2011 and 2016, he had an internal struggle with the Secretary General of his party, who was also his prime minister, and old ally called Amama Mbabazi. They had a fight and they kicked Amama Mbabazi out of the party. The moment they did that, I think he appointed non-entities to run the party, afraid that if I have a strong party organization, it can become a center of resistance against me, because Amama Mbabazi was accused of trying to run for the presidency, which actually later did that in that election season of 2016. So he emasculated the party, but in emasculating the party, he has emasculated himself, because today he doesn't have the organizational infrastructure to campaign for him. So his campaign is based at State House, is led by him, is financed by him, is managed by him. Every single thing is about him. His party's absence in the election means what other organizational infrastructure would he use to present his message to the public? So his limited presence has meant that he must constrain his opponents from campaigning.
Right.
And in that, he has to rely on the state instruments of coercion, the army, the police. He's caught up in a contradiction of his own making.
It sounds so much so as you describe it. So if we look at the organizational structure of the NRM in this election, and then you look at the previous organizational structure of the NRM, what are the missing links? What are those very important bits of that structure that are missing, that are then forcing Museveni to resort to using state machinery?
Because previously, I don't know how I can paint this picture for you. If you came to Uganda, you don't even need to go up country just to reach Kampala. You may find it difficult if I tell you that if you go looking for the NRM campaign headquarters, you may not find it. And even if you found it, you would hardly find much there of people planning and strategizing on something. So even the president's campaign posters, his T-shirts, his practical every single thing has been very slow in coming. There is limited organizational infrastructure to deliver the president's message and rally people house to house, block to block, street by street, village by village. It's very, very limited. And the NRM has always used the state to campaign because it has always been in control of the state machinery. But it has also existed as an independent organization able to deliver its own punch. Right now, I think its presence is so insignificant, it isn't worth really discussing. So in the absence of that, I feel, let me give you an example of social media. In 2015, December 2015, just before our last election, Uganda had 4.7 million people, 4.7 million internet subscribers. That's December 31st, 2015. We had an election in February 2016. As of October, end of October 2020, we had about 20.3 million subscribers on internet.
Wow.
And internet traffic had reached an average of 19 million per month. So you realize that there's a significant number of voters who are now online.
Yep.
So when people are discussing things on Twitter, on Facebook, on WhatsApp, discussing politics, even Instagram, there is so much excitement that is generated on a platform where NRM has very little footprint, very little presence. And it feels like, they're overwhelmed. Even when they go online and you defend Museveni in any way, you get an avalanche of attacks from Bobby Wine's army of cyber bullies, who are so many there in their thousands, that if you are living in an urban environment of people who have smartphones, have access to internet, can pay internet taxes because of something called OTT in Uganda, which is online taxes, the NRM is incapable of responding effectively because it doesn't have an army of cadres online to fight for it. It doesn't have an army of cadres around the city to defend it. In fact, if you go wearing NRM colors downtown in Kampala, people lynch you. You need to have the police presence and the army presence to protect supporters of Museveni, actually to walk with pride and in their own party colors.
Is that the thing, Andrew? The narrative that we even, discussed a couple of days ago is that Museveni still holds quite a lot of support in rural Uganda, whereby the majority of voters reside. Is that the case, based on what you've been talking about now?
Yes, he does. Yes, he does. Even if Museveni did not rig an election here, I think that he would still win, perhaps by a reduced margin of about 54%, as opinion polls show.
Did you say if he does not rig an election? Is that what you said, Andrew?
Even
if he doesn't rig an election, he would still win.
You see, President Museveni always overperforms his opinion poll numbers. So if opinion polls give him 54%, he will win by 60 or 61. So he has always a rigging margin of 5 to 7%. To be fair to him, he always says, no, that's not a rigging margin. It's a rural margin. Opinion polls
it's a reality.
Parts of rural areas as effectively to get their opinion. So he's still strong in rural areas. Also remember that Bobby Wine himself, he has a strong infrastructure online. He doesn't have a strong physical infrastructure. In fact, I worry on election day how many of those youth who run around him are registered voters. If you look at the voter register, the youth aged 18 to 30 constitute 51% of Uganda's electorate.
51?
Only percent of they constitute 51% of Uganda's voting population, but they constitute only 41% of the voter register, meaning a large percentage of them did not register to vote actually. The second thing is on voting day, many young people are quite disloyal, especially male youth. They don't show up to vote. And the constituencies that tend to vote, people who are much older and female, still support Museveni. So Museveni, even without rigging electoral malpractice, he still has a very strong advantage over Bobby Wine. But I think...
If that's the case, Andrew, and does he know this? If that is the case, I mean, if we unfold it the way you've said it now, he still has the margin. He still has the popular advantage now when it comes to voting. So then why use, again, these elements of coercion that you talked about, if he knows this?
That's a very interesting point. I think it is something in him and his system that, when the greatest thing you have in your hand is a hammer, every problem you see, you think is a nail. Just take an example of 1996. That is 24 years ago, the first election we had. By all measures, the man who ran against Museveni 25 years ago, Paul Semogere, had no chance of defeating Museveni at all. But they employed so much violence against the little fellow. This is 25 years ago when Museveni was the cool kid on the block. Bill Clinton was calling him a new breed of an African leader. The whole world was prizing him. You Kenyans used to worship him. You get it. But still, in the election was violent against this guy. I think that the use of violence against opponents is part of the DNA of the Museveni apparatus. I think that because they came to power through violence, the language they easily understand to let out at their opponents.
Power equals violence.
Yes. It is something I think in the DNA of the NRM. They can't get over it.
There's something I'd like to ask you because in our country, Kenya, one of the things that is a hallmark of our electoral process is a term we refer to very, very liberally. It's called tribalism.
Yes.
Do you experience it in Uganda?
No. It is Museveni who has always accused his predecessor Milton Obote of tribalism, but Museveni was wrong. Uganda was historically divided along religious lines between Catholics and Protestants who belong to each and every single tribe. There may be rare exceptions that the people of Milton Obote's tribe always voted for him. That is understandable. Or the people of Buganda always sided with Yakabaka, who is the king here. But by and large, Uganda does not have the kind of tribal politics of Kenya. And that is actually the weakness of the opposition. You see, in a country like this, where you don't have well-cultivated civil society, how do you build an organizational infrastructure? Because the ruling party can use the infrastructure of the state. But what other alternative infrastructure can you use? The easily available instrument in many poor countries like Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, and elsewhere is the tribe, the religion. Because tribal institutions are very powerful. And religious institutions, you have the church running from Nairobi down to the lowest village in Ilmorog or in Busia there in Kenya, you see. So if you are a politician in Kenya and you rely on tribe and religion, you can use the network of churches and mosques, or you can use the network of the tribe to reach the masses. In Uganda, we don't have that. So the opposition are inherently emasculated because they lack an infrastructure on which they can cling. The NRM and Museveni have co-opted the churches and the traditional institutions, and then they have the power of the infrastructure of the state. So you have the state, the religious institutions, and the tribal institutions actually on the side of the NRM. That makes it a very powerful force. That is why in parliament they are likely to win 80%, because the opposition lack that infrastructure to support their presidential bid. And one of the things I fear is that people of Bobby Wine's party are so convinced because of their social media presence that they have already won the election, that January 14th is just a confirmation of their victory.
Right.
I don't know how they will take defeat when it comes. If there is any fear I have, is they will not accept that they have lost, and given the violence, they will have sufficient evidence that the process has not been fair or free. What is the next action? Maybe to take to the streets and organize a mass insurrection. Now, if you organize a mass insurrection, you are played directly into Museveni's hands because he's a specialist in violence. And there, he will pull out his army and the police, and that will undermine democratic politics in Uganda, because when you enter military confrontation, even pacific opponents get targeted. All of you are not seen as the pacific opponents. Now the opposition becomes a criminal organization seeking involved in prison.
I want to ask this question. If we were, let's use our imagination here just for a while, okay, and fantasize about a Bobby Wine win. Let's say he won the elections. You're a seasoned journalist. You've been at this understanding of issues in Uganda for a long time. What sort of presidency do you foresee him providing? What sort of leadership do you see him providing for Uganda?
Okay, so let me make that assumption. First of all, we must wonder if, assuming he won, would the Electoral Commission announce him a winner? I think they would, depending on the margin he has. If there is overwhelming support for him, maybe up to 70%, it is almost impossible, the Uganda I know, for anyone to tamper with those results. And the military that I know would realize that the population has shifted from the president. They would go to the president and say, you have to hand over. That's what I believe. Many Ugandans don't agree with me. But I have this intuition, very strong intuition, that the Ugandan military, and John Museveni has designed it, is not unlikely to try to reverse a 70% margin of victory. And the Electoral Commission doesn't have the strength to try to fiddle with those results, or even the capacity, the way Ugandan society is organized. That's one. Two, if Bobby Wine has been sworn in as president, remember he will become a president of a country where the parliament is 80% controlled by President Museveni. So I asked myself, how would he pass legislation? What would he do to the NRM MPs, assuming they refused, which is very likely, to cooperate with him? Because remember, Ugandan elections are so expensive that every member of parliament borrows heavily to be able to be elected. If you come to the current parliament, which is about to expire, 50% of the members of parliament don't receive their salary because it's deducted at source to pay loans.
Wow.
Another 25% earn about 20% of their salary. Essentially, members of parliament in Uganda are impoverished, even though they earn the highest amounts of money of anybody, even in the corporate sector. So because elections are commercialized, the only way Bobby Wine can secure a vote is by bribing NRA members of parliament. But if he can either bribe them or intimidate them using the army. If he uses the army, he will be accused of becoming a dictator. If he bribes them, he will be accused of doing the exact thing he's doing. But what example is he giving his own MPs and his own ministers in the cabinet that NRM is free to be bribed? For them, they cannot be bribed. So I think that Bobby Wine, even in the best of intentions, he will preside over the most corrupt government in Uganda's history. Not because he's corrupt or a bad person, but because the structure of politics in Uganda presents him such a dilemma that he has to be involved in massive bribery to get his way. And this is the challenge Kenya also faced. When you guys removed the Moi, you thought, now corruption has gone. And then comes Kibaki and the Goldenberg scandal, and the Moi's corruption looks like chicken feed.
True,
then
that's very true.
Come to Uhuru, and corruption even increases. And many Africans don't understand that a lot of the corruption we see in our countries is also a product of the nature of our democratic politics. That to run democracy is ruled by money. And to run a democratic system, you need to use a lot of money. The more democratic you become, the more
money you
money
need.
you become. So Bobby Wine will face that, and therefore there will be a backlash. His supporters who are idealistic will say, now how come he involved in the bribery? They will not understand the hard-nosed bargain he has to make in order to be able to govern the country.
Let's take a break at this point. We're speaking with Andrew Mwenda. Andrew is a journalist and an author in Kampala, Uganda. We are looking at the election in Uganda, which is coming up on Thursday. So on Thursday, people go to the election, especially the one that is on the spotlight is the election of the president. There is Yoweri Kaguta Museveni and Bobby Wine, a musician whose real name is Robert Chagulanyi. And what are these prospects here? So is it violence? Is it not violence? Is it going to be democratic, free and fair? Is it going to be a credible election? Those are all the questions that we are asking in the run-up to this election. And Andrew is with us on the line. Let's keep it right here. We'll be back shortly on Spice FM and KTN Home, 27 minutes after 7.
Have you seen them? Am I lying?
Yes, it's a very nice outfit, I must say. Good
Thank
job.
you. Asante sana.
The compliment is well received.
Good morning and thank you. Evan Wasingishi was asking me what channel is Spice FM.
96.7. Tell them that, right?
Yes, now they know.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Pleasure to have
What
you.
a beautiful studio, my friend.
I've been to other radio stations, but I've never seen anything like this.
Thank you, and it's very nice to be in a modern studio. Absolutely brilliant.
And I have to say, it's a very cool ambiance here in your radio room. Just for our listeners, I think it is below zero in this room here. Very Swiss temperatures.
The weather with Spice FM.
All right, it's drizzling in some parts, slippery roads this morning. Partly cloudy conditions in Nairobi at 16. We're going to go to highs of 23. It's partly sunny in Nakuru, 18 degrees, highs of 24. The high will be 21 in Nyeri this morning. It's cloudy at 15. We're looking at highs of 22 in Eldoret and partly sunny conditions later. And it's also partly cloudy in Kisumu at 18, highs of 26. The highs will also be 26 in Kakamega today. It's partly cloudy at 18. Mombasa is partly cloudy, mostly cloudy actually at 26. We're going to go to highs of 30, 18 degrees and partly sunny in Malindi this morning, highs of 25 and lows of 16. Mostly cloudy conditions in Kampala, going to highs of 24. We're looking at highs of 30 in Dar es Salaam, mostly cloudy at the moment at 26. Light rain in Johannesburg at 16 degrees, highs of 25. We're also looking at highs of 32 in Lagos. Light rain has begun this morning at 26. It's also raining in Kinshasa now at 23. It's going to go to highs of 30 and come back down to lows of 23.
Are you ready? Okay.
Spice FM. Traffic.
Okay, so we saw some heavy traffic this morning on Thika Road. It still continues. There was an accident right around Garden City. So if you can, coming from Roysambu, use the service lane all the way so that you take it through till the Pangani underpass, and then you should be fine after that. However, at Pangani, there is still some traffic. You want to use Wangari Maathai Road, and you should be able to do that without any problem. Juja Road from Lango Kubwa roundabout towards Pangani as well is moving. It's not too bad past the traffic lights, so use that as an option. You can use the Red Hill bypass coming out of Westlands if you don't want to be stuck in that traffic on Huru Highway. So that is an option for you to use coming out of Westlands. Mombasa Road is piling up. We're now in an absolute bumper-to-bumper situation. So you want to be patient through that one. Eastern and Southern bypass is open for use as well. Use those if you can. Talk to us. Spice of MKE on Twitter if you're stuck somewhere, or text us as well, 40127.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Conversation, the Situation Room, broadcasting on Spice FM, on KTN Home and online. This morning and every morning, you have in the studio Eric Latif, Nduoko and C.T. Muga. Joining us this hour on the line is Andrew Mwenda. He is a journalist and author in Kampala, Uganda. We are looking at the forthcoming general election in Uganda, especially the presidential election pitting Yoweri Museveni and, among other candidates, the leading opposition figure, Robert Chagulanyi, popularly known as Bobby Wine, the 38-year-old man. And Andrew, you were telling us about, Bobby Wine's popularity, especially the areas where he resonates with an audience, the youth demographic. They feel that he resonates with their ideals. He also comes from this tribe, the Baganda, and he's also Catholic. Now, youth, I can see, and you've even told us, with the youth in terms of how they speak and the kind of aspirations that he offers them, they connect with him. Now, do those other two parts of the demography also go with him in terms of the Baganda looking at him and seeing he's one of us, or the Catholics looking at him and thinking he's one of us? Does it play a role at all in his campaign?
I think it will. There will be an increase in the number of people in the central region who are the Baganda. Baganda are the largest tribe in Uganda. They constitute 16.4% of Uganda's population. So I am sure, if you look at opinion polls, that he's going to perform better.
Mm-hmm.
But Museveni is also very strong in Buganda. Remember that President Museveni launched his struggle against Milton Obote in Buganda. He was supported by Buganda to come to power, and when he came to power, he restored the Akabaka, which has always been a very important factor in Buganda politics. So it's not like in Kenya where you go to the Luo areas and Raila win, 98% of the voters turn up and 95 vote for Raila. It's unlikely here in the sense that Bobby Wine may get 54% and Museveni gets 44%. So the contest will be, Museveni has always won in Buganda. But now Bobby Wine may win, but not with such a commanding majority.
Okay.
That is one. Two, we come to urban areas. You see, Bobby Wine's greatest support are male youth in urban areas. I have already told you, fewer of them registered and fewer of them show up to vote. If you look at the last election, only, the most populated urban area of Uganda is Kampala city with its surrounding Wakiso district. In the last election, only 51% of the people of Kampala showed up to vote and 54% of the people of Wakiso. One of the problems the opposition in Uganda face is that in their strongest holds, voter turnout is very low. If you go to 7 strongholds in the rural areas, they have voter turnout of anything between 70 to 80%. And Museveni will get anything between 70 to 75% of the vote. But when you come to opposition areas, voter turnout will be, say, 50 to 60%, and the opposition will get, say, 55 to 60%. And that makes the mathematics favorable to Museveni. What I don't know is whether the Bobby Wine wave will increase voter turnout in the urban and the semi-urban areas from 50% to, say, 75 to 80%. If that happens, if voter turnout, especially in urban areas, goes to 70%, and Bobby Wine gets 70% of that vote, it will be difficult for Museveni to win. And I think that is too hopeful to happen. Urban people are very disloyal. They are distracted by many things. In any case, a significant section of the Ugandan population likely to vote for Bobby Wine also has another problem. They believe that Museveni cannot be defeated, and even if he was to be defeated, the Electoral Commission would never announce his opponent as a winner.
That's very interesting.
So they feel that their vote cannot count.
Your vote can count.
Yes. When people are apathetic, when they think that nothing can change, that there is this myth of invisibility around Museveni is one of Museveni's greatest assets. So it leads to lower voter turnout, largely of people who would otherwise vote against Museveni. People who are pro-Museveni often turn up to vote because they support their candidate, and those who don't like Museveni don't show up to vote because, well, they feel their vote won't count. That's another contradiction the opposition in Uganda needs to think about, and they don't.
Sure. So now, Andrew, if I can ask you, as you go on to that explanation, is then, in this case, if people have previously felt that their vote doesn't count and that's the reason why they don't come out to vote, but then we see this wave, whether it's euphoria or whether it's, founded in any kind of political fact, that more and more people then are getting a little bit more excited about the election. Are they coming out because they are tired of Museveni? Or are they coming out, so are they voting Bobby Wine in, or are they voting Museveni out?
Well, I think that if they're to most voters, this is a referendum on Museveni. It has very little to do with Bobby Wine. I think that the Bobby Wine is simply a catalyst. So I would say people would show up to vote against Museveni, not necessarily vote for Bobby Wine.
Yeah.
Most Bobby Wine supporters are really anti-Musevenists. But two, perhaps what I should correct, in the last election, 2016, there was a massive wave in favor of Besigye. Chiza Besigye was the opponent against Museveni, and he got 36% of the vote. There was a huge, huge wave. His rallies were staggering. If you watch them, you'd get scared and say, wow, this is amazing. If you're a Museveni person, you'd get scared. But still, they could not win. Why? You see, the opposition, first, they don't have... I think that the vast majority of Ugandans, about 60%, are potentially likely to vote for the opposition. That's what I think. And why the opposition doesn't win is two things. One, low voter turnout. But two, it is a result of the first, is that they lack the infrastructure, a consequence of the first. They lack the infrastructure to go out and get their own supporters to show up and vote. I'll give you an example. A young man was telling me in 2016, he came from Rwanda. He's a Ugandan working in Rwanda. He went to Tororo near the Kenyan border. And he went to visit a friend, and Muga says, me, I'm attending to my shop. He said, but you come and vote because they are supporters of the opposition. He told me between 11 a.m. and 4 p.m., he drove 49 people to the polling station to vote for Dr. Chiza Besigye. So now I say, assuming the opposition in Uganda had 20,000 people like that, each one faring 49,000, that's an extra million votes. If they had 100,000 people like that, those are 4.9 million votes. So it's possible that many supporters of the opposition don't show up to vote because there's no infrastructure to pull them out. You can have a supporter, but that supporter could be tending to his children, tending to the shop, cutting hair in a barber shop. He could be just lazy at home, listening to music, visiting a friend, or whatever he's doing, cooking, and they don't go to vote. So there are many people who support you, who may even have shown up at a rally, who may not go to vote. Remember, sometimes there are soldiers deployed at polling stations in Uganda. People fear to go there. People may expect violence, and when people expect violence, they keep at home. So there are many things that will discourage an opposition supporter from going to the polling booth that reduce voter turnout. And I think that many people lose sight of those mechanics. Elections do not go to the most passionate. They go to the best organized.
Do you see a situation...
And Museveni has the infrastructure of the state to deliver his supporters to the ballot box.
Do you see a situation that if there was, I want to say uprising, quote unquote, whereby the infrastructure of the opposition then was organized so much so to the point that those who felt some kind of voter apathy, for example, would be called out to vote? Do you think that things could switch? I mean, we have a brilliant example of that in the US, where one woman basically single-handedly got 800,000 people to vote, in some who had never voted before, some who had not voted for the last 10 years, but she was able to do this. And many would say that that action swung things in a certain way. Do you see that something in Uganda like that could happen, where the opposition could then come into power as a result of such action?
I really don't know. That's a very difficult question. I don't know. Even with all the wisdom of an old man of 108 like me, I don't know how to. But what I can say is, if there was voter turnout, it increased to 80%. Last election it was 68. If it went to 85% voter turnout, I would bet Museveni will not win an election in Uganda. If voter turnout reached 85%, Museveni cannot win an election. It would show that the opposition has been able to rally passion for people to really show up and vote him out. And if you see lower voter turnout, it favors him. You look at 2011, President Museveni won by only 58% of the electorate showed up to vote. 58%, and he got 68% of that, which is about 39 or 38% of the registered voters. So he has always been elected by a minority. In fact, the 42% who showed up, who did not show up to vote, were larger than the combined vote, were larger than the votes Museveni got. So it is the trick is in voter turnout. So if people really show up and we reach voter turnout of 85%, even before they announce the results, I will call you and tell you it's done.
It's gone.
Yeah,
Andrew, I have to now ask this question: what is it that you think would galvanize the Ugandan voter to actually turn out?
Again, I don't think I know. I can speculate.
Please speculate.
I can speculate. Museveni would need to make such a blatant mistake, and that mistake would be an assault on the cherished institutions of Uganda. He would need to arrest the cardinal, maybe kill a few priests, and shoot the Kabaka of Buganda. You know, those are institutions that hold a lot of emotional sway on the feelings of Ugandans. There they would get angry with him. But Museveni is a very cautious man. I don't expect him to attack the Catholic Church. If he attacked the Muslims and the institutions, because about 14 or 15% of Uganda's population, and in urban areas they hold sway, so he would need to antagonize the key social institutions that around which Ugandans can rally passionately. The churches and the mosques and our traditional institutions, especially the Kabaka ship in Buganda. But Museveni is very smart. He'll drive his car, go visit the Kabaka, go on TV, say he's the greatest man in the world. And the Baganda will say, no, he respects our king. This is a good president. Remember that Bobby Wine has had some fist fights with the monarchy in Buganda, where he comes from. His own monarchy has had problems with them. So people who are slightly older in Buganda will not be endeared to him, even though he's one of them.
I want to ask now.
Won an election in 1962 because the Baganda they refused to vote for their own Benedict Kiwanuka, who was actually sitting prime minister when we moved to independence, because Kiwanuka insulted the Kabaka, or was accused of insulting the Kabaka. That was enough.
That was good enough. So let's talk about now the election observers. And just coming off the back of what we've witnessed in America with the election observers, and in fact, we're having a conversation about that on then. Does it give some of these institutions any right to talk about how they observe elections in Africa or how they commentate on the elections in Africa? The UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, the spokesperson Ravina Shandamsani, has talked about the deteriorating human rights situation in Uganda, and she says it's likely to discourage people from voting. This, she says, raises this prospect of continued unrest after the election. So basically, she's saying the prospects of a fair election are unlikely in Uganda. When such a serious organization makes such a statement, what is it that you and the other Ugandans feel about such statements?
Well, first, I agree with the general point she's making. I think that the climate of violence is likely to discourage many people from voting. People may think it's not worth voting because the election is not free and fair. If opposition candidates can be beaten and be humiliated, then will these people hand over power? But you see, the violence that has been meted out against the opposition is also a double-edged sword, I should tell you, because people may get angry and say, no, we cannot tolerate this kind of violence. So violence may have another effect. One, it may discourage the NRM supporters. They may say, I think President Museveni has lost it. He's killing people, he's all this. I will not go up. I will not show up to vote. I don't like Bobby Wine, but I will not go to vote. But the opponents of Museveni may say, enough is enough. Let's show up. Let's go and vote this system out of the way. So when you use violence, it's a double-edged sword. It may discourage people from voting. It may embolden people to go out and vote against you. Now, let me come to the issue of some person from the UN making a statement. I should tell you, I am not one of those who like Western countries and the institutions poking their nose into our politics, because they come armed with abstract theories and try to impose them on a complex reality. There are many. You remember when they indicted Ruto and Uhuru? I was one of the strongest opponents of the ICC indictment, because what Kenya needs to achieve internal political accommodation may not be criminal prosecution, but political reconciliation. And when you come armed with the self-righteousness, you lose sight of the nuances and subtleties that make politics work. Even America, as you see, it has so many schisms. Like right now, ideally you should criminally prosecute Trump. But you may wonder, the guy has 74 million voters and supporters. If we go to prosecute this man criminally, it may excite, it may anger his supporters, they may get angry, and yet you are Biden saying, I want to unite the country. Maybe in the interest of uniting America, bring people together, you need to ignore Trump's crimes in order to ensure that his supporters do not feel aggrieved.
Right.
Don't deepen the grievance. So the same applies here. I think if international community give us sufficient space to make our mistakes, learn from them, find our own compromises and our own accommodations, we are better governing ourselves, because there is a saying that he who wears the shoe knows where it pinches. We are the ones wearing the shoe. We are the ones with teeth in the game. So the people really to be given sufficient space to handle the situation of Uganda should not be New York, Washington, Brussels, London or Paris. It should be Kampala.
Okay. But is that gap now being filled by local institutions? There are local organizations in Uganda that are coming up and saying, we want to independently observe this election and see what's happening and make their own verdict of whether this election is, their campaigns have been fair,
Incidentally, yes. We always have them. We have
How strong are they?
Organizations. they are not as strong as we would want, just like every institution in Uganda is not as strong. You see, even in Kenya, I'm sure your institutions are still young, both the institutions of state and the institutions of civil society. So institutions of civil society that monitor and whatever elections are still young and in the infancy, but I think they're a better alternative than an externally imposed solution. In any case, we need to build our own capacity with the time. We have an aspiration, but we have a journey along the way, and that journey is not straightforward. It's not linear. It is zigzag. Countries don't develop by a gallop. They develop by a creep, and that movement is not always linear. It is zigzag. And the best person who articulates this when he's speaking about America is former President Barack Obama. When it comes to Africa, he abandons all his sophisticated, nuanced sort of thinking. He thinks that you can just enforce things on this continent blindly, without its own context. Because I just watch Obama a lot. When he's talking about America, I feel he's the most intelligent man I listen to, because he understands the complexities of any situation. He looks at the weaknesses of America as America is an experiment. We are involved in this experiment every day trying to perfect it. But we can never achieve what we want. So when he comes to Africa, he thinks that what America has taken America 300 years to build, Africa should do it in 1 week. You know what I mean? So I am very impatient. And
with that, when I ask about local institutions, Andrew, you've said, for example, in Uganda, religion is very, very strong, and especially in the Christianity, Catholics and Protestant. If we look at the election in the DRC, the Catholic Church was very, very strong in its voice on talking about the election, on how it was happening, even talking about who is likely to have won that election. Are we likely to hear such voices from Uganda, for example, from the strong Catholic Church or the strong Protestant movement?
The good news is that in Uganda we have what we call the Interreligious Council, which is the council bringing together the Anglican and the Catholic churches, which between them have about 70% of the population of Uganda. And they do actually issue statements, sometimes critical of the government, and they also do election monitoring. And I think we need to listen to them more. Of course, I have my own suspicions, because I think the religious institutions of Uganda have been co-opted by Museveni personally and the NRM government. So many Ugandans may not have as much faith in their political statements as ideally would happen. I don't know whether that is also not just my own bias, but that's the sense I get, that in many ways they're in bed with Museveni, and therefore their criticisms are tinted with that fact that, Museveni is a sophisticated politician. He knows how to ensure that all centers of potential opposition are neutralized. And
Andrew, let me ask this question. Since you're talking about the subtlety and the wisdom that President Museveni has, talk to us a little bit about the freedom of the press in Uganda.
Now that's also a conflicted terrain. The freedom of the press in Uganda is a meeting ground of very many contradictory movements and things. If you came to Uganda, you would be impressed. If you are just a foreigner coming without any context, you have flown in from, let's say, Dubai or wherever. Uganda has a very vibrant press, where we sit on television and the radio stations. We have 300 radio stations, about 40 television stations, so many newspapers, and we can say anything we want. If you go on social media in Uganda and how they debate, Twitter really, the way they closed Trump, they would close half the accounts of Twitter, of Ugandans on Twitter. So there is a lot of free debate. Yet at the same time, many times the state can intervene in this press freedom, not consistently, but occasionally when it feels threatened, kick a journalist here, arrest another, bribe a third, gag a fourth. There are many such interventions and overt interventions by the state to undermine this press freedom without ever undermining it. You see how complicated the situation of Uganda is. If there are some countries, if you go to Eritrea there, it's very clear. There are things you cannot say in Eritrea. But in Uganda, there is everything you can say, but one day they can catch up with you. So Museveni is what I would call, he's a person who doesn't see things as black and white. He sees a lot of gray areas. So he's a tinkerer. He likes to tinker with things. He keeps playing. He's like a cat holding a rat, but not eating it. He lets it run and then pulls it back. He lets it run around there, grabs it back. Clearly it's going to eat it. Now, that's how he plays his game. Uganda is, you cannot give one statement and say the press is God. Really, I was having a breakfast yesterday on Friday with one of the top diplomats in Uganda, an ambassador of one of the most powerful countries in the world. Let me not mention who that person is. I don't want to mention the gender, but that person was saying, when I read the Ugandan press, I'm so impressed by the amount of opinions, even in the government-owned newspapers and the television stations, the amount of criticism you find there, because opposition politicians are invited on television that is owned by the government, and they say whatever they want to say. But if you go to up-country radio stations, you find that there is very limited space there for opposition politicians to speak. You see. So in Kampala here, there will be such a huge volume of free expression, but also certain undercurrents of beating up journalists, killing one or two, jailing others, things like that. In Uganda, we have food we prepare where you get rice, matoke, practically every single thing, you put it in one dish and cook it. We call it katogo. So Uganda's press freedom is katogo, a mixture of a cocktail. Okay, a cocktail in English. Katogo is cocktail. A cocktail of so many drinks in one glass.
So last week we also saw that Bobby Wine took his family out of the country, and citing that he wanted to make sure his family was safe. You specifically tweeted about this, Andrew, and you said that what has he done in this is that he's taken his family out, but left millions of his supporters in the same mess that he's hoping to free them from by becoming president. Is that a message that he's put out there 3 days, 1 week to the election?
Well, I should tell you, I appeared on 7th December 2017. I appeared on the television show with Bobby Wine. When we finish the show, I will send you a video. In that video, he said that to me, if there was trouble in Uganda, I'll be the first to board a plane and leave the country. But for him and his family, they have nowhere to go. This is the only home they have, so they will stick here. Whether there is chaos, whether there is violence, they will stay. So why I tweeted that is when he evacuated his family, I also tweeted that video saying, look, this guy said I will run out of the country. I'm going to stay put in this country. I won't run out. But he's already running away. And he is saying he's special. You see, I felt that was the worst thing Bobby Wine ever did in his political career. Because if he is anticipating violence and is evacuating his family, why has he led a process that is going to cause death of so many of his supporters? And I also know that many of his supporters are organizing, with his approval, of course, to resist any. If they lose an election, they believe. I began this show by telling you that Bobby Wine supporters believe they have already won the election. January 14th is just a confirmation of your victory. If that victory is not confirmed, I don't think they'll take it lying down. They will want to resist. And they've been organizing resistance, a mass insurrection, to stop what they will consider electoral theft. And he's aware of that, and that's why he's evacuating his family early. But all his supporters also have families. Why does he think only his family should be special to be protected? Or why doesn't he demonstrate that I am in this with all of you? We are in this together. I am not going to run away. My family will also be here. Why can't he face the very music he is instigating? That is one. The second thing I find, which is a strategic risk on the part of his supporters, is that in his own camp, he lacks pillars of restraint. There are no individuals, politicians of age and experience and maturity to restrain the activities of his supporters. You know, if you look at Kenya in 2002, just look at the leadership of the opposition, whether it was Mwai Kibaki, Raila, Saitoti, all the leaders of the opposition in Kenya were senior politicians who could exercise caution in case there was a crisis or exercise restraint. In Uganda, if you looked at Dr. Besigye, who has been running against Museveni in his FDC party, there are senior politicians who served in the cabinet, who have been prime ministers, who have enjoyed high positions, and they are mature people who can exercise restraint, who can call for caution or urge caution. But when you go to Bobby Wine's side, I don't think there's anybody above 40 years of age. He's the oldest person in his group. They are young people, reckless. I don't think they even have much to lose, and they are so militant. They have all the energy to destroy, very little to preserve. So I feel like if they lose an election, which they are certainly going to, their group does not have those pillars of restraint.
Who can hold them back?
Call for restraint, yes. And that's why they may end up into a military confrontation with the state. And that is Museveni's place. If you ever want Museveni to be comfortable, right now he's intimidated, he's scared. He's even losing weight because he's facing electoral competition. It is when you take him on the field of violence. That is his specialty.
That one, he's home and dry. Andrew, thank you very much for talking to us this morning.
Thank you so much, Andrew.
Thank you, Andrew.
Andrew Mwenda is a journalist and author based in Kampala, Uganda. We're talking about the election that's coming up in Uganda in a couple of days' time, 4 days' time, 3 days' time, on the 14th of January. That is on Thursday. We'll be talking to you again, Andrew, to see what happens, especially after the election results have been declared, and just to understand what's happening on the ground. And thank you very much for tuning into the Situation Room this morning. Keep it right here. We want to take a quick break on KTN Home. We'll be back shortly.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life. Spice FM, Malindi. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
All right, a lot of insights coming in from
Mornings done right.
monitored and observed the goings on in politics in the region for many years, and especially in Uganda. So he seems completely and 100% convinced that, you know what, the election is won already by Yoweri Museveni. The question now will be by how much? And also, how much ground is the opposition likely to gain if they're able to get their voters to the ballot? Because that's a very big if.
Absolutely. But it's interesting that he talked about the fact, like, look, if they were able to galvanize all of this support to the ballot box, that there was a possibility that Museveni would not come back as president. So people are sitting at home with their vote, hoping for a change in government, but they're just not going to go because they have the perception that the vote doesn't count. A very high number of people sitting at home with their vote, not going to bother because it has not counted in the past, and they don't see that this would change in the coming future.
It's about, I think, if you look at the number of people, the number of youth then who come out and attend Bobby Wine's rallies, you can see that there's that movement. And when Andrew says, yeah, there are very many youth who have come out to vote. If you look at the demographic of those who are in that age bracket of voting, that is between 18 and above, especially just 18 to 30 years, he says 51% of the population is in that category. But then of that, only 41% have registered as voters. And then of that, a fewer number are going to actually turn up to vote, especially the male voters who do not turn up to vote. So the challenge now here will be on how Bobby Wine can organize and make sure that get all the votes that you can to the ballot, and then now start protecting that vote at the ballot. Challenge, but it's a good challenge. We'll have more and more conversations on what's happening in Uganda in coming days. Tomorrow we'll have more, and Wednesday as well, and Thursday we'll have more conversations with people who understand what's happening in Uganda, just trying to unpack the election 2021 for Uganda, especially for the presidential campaign. There are 11 candidates who are going up against Yoweri Museveni. So it's not just Bobby Wine. There are 12 candidates. One of them is Museveni. The other one is Robert Chagulanyi, a.k.a. Bobby Wine, and then 10 others. All right. So who are those 10 others? We'll have that conversation as well. Good morning. It's now 8 o'clock.
Spice up your life. 102.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
So everybody's back, including the contractors on the Nairobi Expressway. All right, so let's look at the chaos that is coming all the way from the Mombasa, or rather Machakos Junction. Let's start there, Mombasa Road. Trucks are involved here as well, moving very, very slowly. It's crazy on the Mombasa-Nairobi highway from the Machakos Junction coming from Mombasa. That is very slow today. It then connects with the Way Bridge at Mlolongo, and that's not moving. Single lane near South Sea is a recipe for chaos today. That's what we're being told. If you're not out there yet, use the Southern Bypass, or you can use Enterprise Road to access the city. It's madness. That's not moving at all, and everybody is out today. All right, Kiambu Road is a mishmash. Jam everywhere you look, and it's not moving at all. We're now at 4 lanes on Kiambu Road trying to join the Thika Superhighway. That's very slow as you get to the Pangani underpass trying to get into the city. You can use Wangari Maathai Road. The southern and eastern bypasses are what you can use as well. It's a Monday and it's manic already. Talk to us, Spice FMKE on Twitter. Let's hear where you might be stuck or if you find an alternate route, or text 40127.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
2.5 minutes after 8 o'clock. This is Kenya's biggest conversation, The Situation Room. Thank you very much for tuning in on Spice FM, online and on KTN Home. Listen every morning, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. This show broadcasts here with Eric Latif, Nduoko, and C.T. Muga. And we always begin the hour with today's proverb. Which one is today's?
Well, it's actually from Ethiopia. Dine with a stranger, but save your love for your family.
Dine with a stranger, but
Yes.
save your love for the family. Okay. Okay. Family comes first.
Yes.
Blood is thicker than water.
After
Yes.
you eat, go home.
After you eat, go.
You sure?
Love your family, but feed the stranger.
Yes. That's a nice way of paraphrasing it. By all means, don't neglect the stranger.
Na wapenda.
Lakini
sasa huyu ako na njaa.
Yes.
Okay. So now let's talk politics. It's Monday and we've got to talk politics, okay? We've seen what happened over the weekend and we mentioned it a little bit. So on Saturday, there was the burial of Mrs. Hannah Mudavadi, 95-year-old matriarch of the Mudavadi family, mother to Musalia Mudavadi. Many political leaders, including the president and the former prime minister, were present, and they spoke. And it was mostly politics on what needs to happen in the country, the kind of Kenya these leaders need to leave us, the kind of work that they need to do. Some of the people who were speaking there, including, for example, Kakamega Senator Cleopa Malala, and even Atwoli, they stood up and they were telling the president, you know what, Mr. President, as you're speaking, as you're doing all the good work that you're doing for this country, there are people inside your own house, who are misbehaving. If you look at ODM, in fact, not ODM, NASA, Raila has been able to rally NASA to the handshake. Musalia is here, Kalonzo is here, Moses Wetangula is here, and they all support the handshake from the NASA side. You, from your side, your own deputy is going against this handshake spirit. Your own deputy has brought in some people who are going behind your back to oppose the BBI structurally. You see the kind of problems that you're having, and Mr. President, you need to take charge. And when the president stood, he said, Msione paka amenyeshewa mukadhani. Oh, msione simba amenyeshewa mukadhani ni paka.
So paka akinyesha utafikiri nini panya?
Yeah. Taka mtoto wa simba. So you do not see that, and you assume that I'm not in charge. I am fully 100% in charge. It's just that I'm a Democrat. I allow people to express their views. I allow people to express themselves. It's a democratic country, but everything has its own timing. And basically, it was just giving you a veiled threat and saying, when that time comes, I will drop the hammer so hard that you will all realize I'm the leader.
Do you recall when the Tangatanga movement and the Kieleweke movement were in full swing, and people were traversing the country, and the drama surrounding it was profound. And a lot of it focused on the president and the ills that were allocated to him and the things that were said he had not done. And it continued, and it continued, and it continued. And people got bolder and bolder. And then the president took action. And suddenly, certain key positions within the two houses that we have, and that had been held by individuals who were on the Tangatanga side, fell by the wayside.
Right.
And the hue and cry took on a different tone. Oh, we are being picked on. Oh, what did they expect? To continue being allowed to simply say whatever they saw fit, to disparage the president, albeit even insult him directly. And he simply kept quiet and listened. Now, when he responded, there was a complaint, a huge complaint. Right now, the same has happened. We've had politicians going around the country, doing what they thought was in their best interest, and doing the things that politicians do, cajoling, inciting others, doing the other. And then the president makes a statement in response to statements that have been made. And suddenly the president is being tribalistic. Really, is he?
Is he?
Is he?
Because if you want to look at things with the same eye that we look at them, we had looked at them previously, then it wouldn't be that the speak would change.
Oh.
It shouldn't be that it changes, because then something is now targeted at you.
Well, yes. I mean, if other factors are considered to be a truism, that there are people who are descended from former political leaders, the late political leaders, the argument by the other side is, well, these political leaders were not always political leaders. They had humble beginnings. And the humble beginnings, from those humble beginnings, they rose to be certain types of people. So with every generation, you have this sort of ascendancy, and you see it. Now, if that then is considered to be true, then equally, if you look at the presidency of this country and the leadership within it, it is also true that there are only two communities who have
been president.
Yes, that's it. It is as true as the other matter is true. Now, which is more tribalistic? That you are president and you come from a community, does it make you a tribalist? No, it just means you are president and you come from a certain tribe. Tribalist is when you focus your attention and benefits of your power on your people. Then we say you are tribalistic. Yes. But if indeed someone seems to attempt to balance the odds, why then do you think this fight for the highest seat in the land is ever so vigorous? Not because it suddenly makes you a better person, but it's because it has multiple benefits. And people see the benefits. And if you look at the function of our politicians, by and large, many of them will favor people from their communities. It's just what we see, just a fact. Not as though it suddenly makes someone a tribalist. It's just what we see. If it changes, we will also say we have seen the changes. Now, given where we are, this is 2021. The election is next year. It was early days yet last year. The early days yet mantra, well, the reality of our political situation is closing in on it. It's no longer going to be
dawning.
Yes. And if you started sprinting thinking it was 200 meters and it turns out that this thing is actually a marathon, you may run out of breath before you even finish 400 meters.
Yeah, you might get tired. You might get tired at the moment.
One thing that I noticed and I've noticed is let's just call it polarization for lack of another word. And this is not on the negative side, but also polarization is not necessarily negative. The division of the political narrative from the tribal things into now this, let's call it class. So are we saying that we mwananchi wa kawaida, because we've always been called mwananchi wa kawaida, we mwananchi wa kawaida are hustlers. We are the people who wake up every day and we're wondering what to do. So we are one group, and then those who have been running things in this country belong to a certain other class, and they belong to this other privileged class, and that's why they're called the dynasty. That has and when Ruto started on it, maybe it was just by accident that he landed on it, and the hustler, and it gained momentum, and it had started resonating with certain people, and then he picked up on it. But it's gotten to a point where those that are being classified as the dynasty really, really express themselves as pained by that. That's why they actually respond so strongly about it. It's not once. It was not the first time on Saturday that leader upon leader, especially those that are classified as dynasty, would speak up and say, we are not. It's not the first time. So is it indicating that it really is hitting them right there, and they're feeling the pain of it, and they feel, hey, this one, but no, we need to respond to it.
Is it hitting them because they don't like what's associated with it? Or is it hitting them because they realize that the majority of the population then would attack them because of that title or label? If there was no attack, if there was no thought linked to any kind of emotion because of that label, I don't think they would respond in that way. But they see the response that would come from people because they're being pitted against those maybe who did not come born into privilege, for example. If that response was not there, they wouldn't react in that manner. It's because of the response that has come from that title, from other people, not even them, that they feel attacked.
But consider also, it's like everything about that person has to do with their birthright. It's as though they've done nothing else with their lives other than being born into a certain type of family.
That they would not have been where they are today had it not been for the opportunity or experience of their birth.
Actually, how many of us benefit just from that simple thing? Many of us do. Just by virtue of the fact that you happen to be related to someone. Look, there are certain things that are just a normalcy in everyday life.
So they're a fact.
Precisely. But when you highlight it as though it's the only thing, it's like, what have these people achieved? They're part of a dynasty.
Okay.
And they say, no, wait.
We did a little bit more than that.
We do have parents who started this whole thing.
Right.
But there's a little more to it than just that. There are things we have done ourselves.
Now, this is where now the problem comes in. I actually don't hear that thing that we've done. When they are responding, they don't respond to say, okay, yes, I am Raila Odinga. My father was Jaramogi. Jaramogi fought for independence. Jaramogi was a senior leader at the point of Kenya gaining independence. Jaramogi was even being considered as among those who could take over in the leadership. And he said, no, until Jomo comes out. Jaramogi was the first vice president. But I, as Raila Odinga,
I have done.
One,
2,
yes,
3.
There was, of course, the name Odinga that did ABCD, but I have also done. He does not respond to that and say, okay, I have. He comes up into, but Jaramogi was a hustler. Jaramogi was born poor. Jomo Kenyatta was a meter reader. Jomo Kenyatta was born poor. If you look at Moses Mudavadi was born poor. That's the response. So basically, they are playing right into that game of, you are dynasty.
But they are. Look, they are. And it isn't a negative thing to have a successful father. It isn't a bad thing if you had a father who sought to raise the bar and achieve great things. How can that be wrong? That's what the person did. That's what their lives were.
Which is why I'm telling you that the reason why they feel besmirched is because of the reaction of those individuals who are not part of this dynasty. If it didn't exist, if it was just on their own, going along their merry way, and there was nobody poking at it, saying, you know what, you're from the dynasty, you have privilege, you were born with a silver spoon in your mouth, that's why you've been able to ascend to this position. If there was nobody poking at it, they would not have this reaction that they do. But it is because of the reaction, that's why they're saying, hold on a minute, it's actually not true. But I do agree, if it isn't, you were born, there's nothing wrong with being born that way.
Actually, it's presented as though there's something very wrong
There
with it.
isn't anything wrong with it. However, in the race in which you are in, it shouldn't also be that the leadership of the country seems to have been handed over to you by virtue of the fact that you were born into this.
Actually, that is...
Which is why I agree that if you are feeling bad about it, show us then what it is that you actually have been able to do.
But let's talk about this. Yeah. Is it being handed to you because of the privilege that you have inherited from your father?
It really is not.
Is that really a truth?
In some case it is. Yes, in some case it is. In some case, when you talk about Kamwana is the son of Jomo and you get votes based on that, with everything else, yes, it is. You see, we're talking about perceptions, and you like bringing this up all the time, City, and it's very important. Perception-wise, that's how it appears. Perception-wise, it appears that why did Moi pick this particular one gentleman who had not much experience in politics and sidestep people like Saitoti and the rest? Why? there's something about it.
Well, sure.
It's because of his roots. Why did Musalia Mudavadi win that by-election after the death of his father? He inherited his father's seat. Why? Perception.
Sure.
Right now, if we look at things, we can say Kalonzo Musyoka was picked by Moi from somewhere. He was a young lawyer. He rose into the ranks. So Kalonzo Musyoka, yes. But his son, who is a member of the East African Legislative Assembly dynasty, perception is, why is Kalonzo Musyoka Jr. a member of the East African Legislative Assembly? What has he done to rise to that level?
The perception is, though, however, that then there are individuals, or the word you like using all the time, cabal of people who are making sure that the descendants of such people remain in positions that are either lucrative or they find themselves into power when it comes to the government.
Dynasty.
It would be the perception of many a Kenyan that there are forces working behind the scenes to make sure that the lineage remains in power.
For every leader of a dynasty or the originator of a dynasty, there are many others with whom they were at the same level at some point in time. And these people also had families and children. Now, if they didn't maintain their status in politics, remain relevant in politics, they are soon forgotten.
Yep.
So what we're referring to as that dynasty dies, if we're talking about ascendancy to power within the political realm. Okay? Now, when you bring that discussion, because the sole point here is the them against us narrative, that because these people are privileged, our suffering is because of that privilege and because they are where they are and who they are and a position they continue to simply propagate. Now, it clearly, and you correctly put it, it clearly touches around nerve somewhere. The response that you keep hearing, it touches around nerve. And the question is, should it?
Well, it would. And I'm thinking that the leaders need to be pulled aside and told, okay, guys, how you respond to this is furthering that narrative. That's my feeling. That when you see them standing up and saying, you know what, Jaramogi was this, Jomo was this, we are not dynasty. When you keep doing that, you're basically reminding us that the other side are actually calling you dynasty, and now you're trying to push back and say, but no.
And in pushing back,
you're
actually confirming that indeed
confirming that you are.
Not even just in pushing back. If anything comes out that would show that you are defensive of that position, then what are you defending if it's not true?
And then now it has gone to a point where it's given birth to a political party that now is actually even aligning itself that way and saying we're the Wheelbarrow Party. So the Wheelbarrow Party was launched at some fanfare in Nairobi on Friday, right? Wheelbarrow Party is UDA, United, what?
Usually the D stands for Democratic.
And the A is the alliance, right?
Yes.
It's not dynasty.
It's not United Dynasty.
No, not this one.
United Against Dynasty. No, it's not UAD. It's United Democratic Alliance. The party leader for this party is a former senator from Machakos County. This is Johnston Mudama. The deputy party leader is the man who has been a senator before, former senator for Kakamega, and this is Bonnie Halwale, and then other leaders. And those that are associating themselves with this party are those that have associated themselves very strongly with the Tanga Tanga movement in Kieleweke, and not in Kieleweke, in Jubilee, and therefore supporters of the Deputy President William Ruto. The party's candidate for the Nairobi gubernatorial election, and they gave her the ticket, is Bishop Margaret Wanjiru. Yesterday in Kayole, Bishop Margaret Wanjiru was among the leaders who attended church service, and it was also attended by Deputy President William Ruto. And he said, we have a candidate for Nairobi, and this is this is Margaret. Therefore, we, being UDA, it basically just tells you Ruto
has left the building.
UDA.
Okay.
Is in the party. Okay. So what is it that this party stands for? So wheelbarrow is its symbol. It's talking to the hustlers, but let's bring in the party leader of this particular political party, and this is Johnston Mudama. We're trying to get him online via video as well, but we have some technical issues, but so we'll just have a telephone conversation with him. Good morning, Mheshimiwa.
Good morning to you, my fellow Kenyans with the station. How are you?
Fine, thank
you. We're very well, thank you. Welcome to the Situation Room.
Thank you very much. My only disappointment is that we cannot connect it through TV, but I think through radio station we do and give Kenyans a message that they are expecting from us.
Indeed. We are live on TV. We are live on KTN Home. It's only that we don't have video on as well.
Yes, I can see you're live on TV, and also you are live on radio.
Yes.
And I'm ready to go on to the radio.
Very good. Now, Mheshimiwa, UDA, tell us about it. First of all, you're the party leader of this particular political party. So at what point did you decide to get into the... I know you said you left Wiper some time back. At what point did you decide to get into this new political party and even become its party leader?
First of all, I'm not the only person who went to UDA. I'm not alone. We are a big group of Kenyans. We are many Kenyans, and we are coming out and moving out from existing political parties like ODM, like ANC, like Wiper, Ford Kenya, and many others, and also Jubilee, the main Jubilee. And moving out is not to say that some of us, we are not part of some of the existing parties like Jubilee. But what happened is this. After we realized that there was no democracy in parties like Wiper, because if you remember very well, I'm the first person in Kenya to say I'm not going to contest for mine and senatorial position in Kenya, and because of the mistreatment that was given to other Wiper members by the party leader, by first of all choosing the people he wants without allowing them to go into a competitive nomination. Number two, there are all kinds of allegations that money they were paid. When you go to ODM, it's the same, and all other political parties. But for my son, because I want to see the movement being practiced and given a chance to take place, I said I'm not going to stand. I would stay away. And I stepped out of that election. On the basis of that, I started searching for a vehicle or kind of a political party that would not mistreat Kenyans in that manner. And I waited from 2017 up to just recently when I decided to join the stand of political opposition of the deputy president with others. And on the basis of that, we started searching for a political party, and the through PDR, which is an affiliate in coalition with Jubilee, which is supposed to be part of President Uhuru Kenyatta. PDR is part of President Uhuru Kenyatta, and is part of William Ruto. And having in mind that we are working with the deputy president, we decided just to change the name from PDR to UDA. All other political policies and arrangements and inclinations remains the same. So UDA is in coalition with Jubilee, with elected members of parliament. So the way you should see it is that the coming together of ourselves was to create a more democratic political party. If Jubilee wants now to change its operations and behave the way we want UDA to be behaving after this not in 2022, then we don't mind continue, and maybe we can only amend certain coalition agreements and points and get where we want to be. That is what made us to be where we are.
You know, well, I think I have a number of questions myself, but I will take a break and then we'll come back. You said PDR is in coalition with Jubilee. I thought those parties basically agreed to come together and form one giant party called Jubilee, but then they also agreed that they're not going to be in existence for a while.
No, the parties, there were choices. And the party that was sort of demolished and wrapped up and put aside was URP and the TNA. Those two formed one. Others came in as coalition parties. And then the agreement was that at the election time, it was only PDR that was allowed to field independent candidates where Jubilee did not also field candidates.
I see.
And the elected members through PDR, they were not challenged at all by Jubilee candidates, but they were challenged by other political parties. And then it was given that space by Jubilee because of some well-known reasons, which I cannot speak and tell you now on the TV.
Johnson Muthama, UDA party leader, is joining us on the line. This is Kenya's biggest conversation, The Situation Room. Time for us to take a quick break on Spice FM, on KTN Home and online, where we are live streaming Spice FM KE on YouTube and Facebook and Twitter. We will be back shortly. Keep it right here.
They are smart, they are funny, and unfailingly entertaining. They are the adults in the room, and they are here to help you be the best adult you can be.
Just to be very honest with each other here, not all of us are going to get tall, dark, and handsome. Not all of us are going to get 0.5s or chotaras. Some of us have to learn the short guys. Some of us have to learn those pot-belly people. Some of us have to learn older men or younger men.
Spice.
Don't ask your partner if he or she enjoyed it. I think the approach should always be, if she's enjoyed the journey, she will let you know.
Yeah.
She'll tell you, hey, maze, your bus is big. Mi sijaipanda basi kubwa kama hii. Juu hata hii basi, hiyo mafuta tulieka yote, imetuleta hapa vizuri. Hii basi iko na nguvu. Hii basi iko na nguvu.
Spice.
Now into a relationship, it becomes like you've stopped your life, and then now me, I am your life. You see, like, what happened to your life? What happened to you? What did you used to do?
And women are guilty about that.
Is your wife listening to the show?
Whether it is matters of the heart, finances, or work that's weighing on your mind, worry not. Spice FM, Nakuru. The weather with Spice FM.
All right, so still looking at few clouds here and there in Nairobi, but the sun is peeking out through them. Highs of 23 today. It's going to be mostly cloudy in Nakuru at 19, highs of 24 and lows of 15. Mostly cloudy conditions in Nyeri this morning at 18 degrees, rising to a high of 21 and lows of 14. It's partly sunny in Eldoret at 18, highs of 22 and lows of 13. It's mostly cloudy in Kisumu at 19 degrees, highs of 26 and lows of 18. Looking at cloudy conditions in Kakamega as well, highs of 26 and lows of 15. 27 degrees and mostly cloudy in Mombasa, highs of 30 and lows of 24. We're looking at highs of 25 in Malindi and lows of 16. It's cloudy in Kampala at 20, highs of 24. The highs will be 30 in Dar es Salaam. Mostly cloudy. The rain seems to have subsided for now. And 16 degrees and light rain continues in Johannesburg, highs of 25 and lows of 16 today, and continues to rain in Lagos at 25. That'll be the low with highs of 32. And for now, in Kinshasa, it's 23 degrees. We'll see highs of 30 and lows of 23, with the rain continuing for most parts of the morning.
Are you ready? Okay.
Spice FM.
Okay, after a long
Traffic.
while, the traffic on Gong Road starts at MPC Gong Road, and that's way up there. Not quite sure what the issue is, but moving very, very slowly today. Before you get yourself to the City Mortuary roundabout, it is going to take a while. Kiambu Road is a mess this morning, unfortunately, not moving as you're trying to then connect with the Thika Superhighway. Another accident happening at Roasters, or rather has happened at Roasters, and so traffic is piling up all the way from the Safari Park Hotel. Yes, everybody essentially is back to school today, but it seems that the roads are jam-packed. There's been an accident on Karen Road, unfortunately, trying to connect either with Ngong Road or go up towards Ngong or go in the direction of the CBD. Landys Road, jam-packed that you're trying to get into the CBD, and this is connecting with Jogo Road rather, right around the City Stadium roundabout. So unfortunately, everywhere we look today is a mess, guys. The eastern and southern bypasses, however, open for use longer, but it'll get you there without too much of a headache. Speak to us, Spice FM KE on Twitter, in case you find a good route, or text 40127.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. done right. 94.4
This is Kenya's
Spice
biggest
FM.
conversation. It's the Situation Room. At 8:30, we are live on Spice FM on KTN Home, and we are also live online on Spice FM KE, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and www.spicefm.co.ke. This and every morning you have in the studio Eric Latif, CT Muga, Nduoko, and joining us on the line is the party leader of the United Democratic Alliance. This is former Senator Johnston Mudama. This UDA is the Wilbaro Party. And we're having a conversation with him to understand more about the party.
Mheshimiwa, I want to thank you for expanding the political space and the democratic space in the country. This is what I believe this party is helping do. But everything that you've said resonates well and it sounds well, but this isn't the first time we've heard these things. Whenever people have moved from one party and moved to the other, what is it, if I may ask, is UDA going to do differently to ensure that the very things that have made you move from the other parties are actually enshrined and put into practice in UDA?
We are being driven with one main agenda called democracy. And I can now try to give you some examples. When we got together and we decided to pick a candidate from Sambweni, we managed to do that by using scientific opinion polls. And after getting the results, we called all the candidates who were willing to stand with us, despite the fact we did not have a party. But we wanted our candidate to be as an independent candidate. It is through that we called the other concerned candidates and we displayed the results in a very open manner on a broad daylight. But at the end of the day, they said numbers never lie. And they accepted the results. And for that reason, we picked one candidate called Faisal Bada, and the others came in without being coerced or forced to support one candidate, and we win the election, the by-election. Secondly, now when it came to Matugu and the Kabichai, we did the same. And we called all the candidates and we displayed the results to them. Some agreed with us, and they agreed to go and support the candidate who was picked through scientific research. And those who refused, we told them you are free to exercise your democratic rights. You can go and stand either as an independent candidate or join other political parties. Clearly, without asking more questions, and even without looking at other areas of MCRs and so on, just by giving an illustration of the three by-elections, one done and two coming, and the constituencies, is a clear way of allowing democracy to take place. Unlike when you look at other political parties, they just picked. And we saw demonstrations taking place in Matugu of supporters of one of the political parties saying the method that was used, it is not acceptable to them, and they are defecting from that political party. Unlike where we are standing, nothing like that was witnessed, and nothing like that will be witnessed. So that's the approach we want to do.
Well, two responses to that, Mheshimiwa. One is there's a story in the papers this morning about the Matungu by-election where some of the candidates are alleging that you invited them to Nairobi. They did not know that they were coming to meet with UDA leadership. They actually came, one of them says they came to your home, and that's where they were being told to drop their campaigns and drop their bid for election and support a candidate that is supported by UDA. That is one. The second one, as you say, that this is how then you're picking your candidates. How did you pick Margaret Wanjiru as the candidate for Nairobi County? Was it the same? Was it a scientific poll? Did you call in the other candidates and tell them this is the best candidate? Or do you have any other internal mechanisms?
Let me start by saying, frankly speaking and openly, nobody was coerced to support another candidate within the two, in the two constituencies. Everything was shown. We say this is how the scientific resource says. And at the end of the day, we also left it open. If you want to go with this result, it is your right to do it. If you don't want to go through it, you can go and stand alone. So anybody who says anything outside that is not telling the truth, because it's either you come with us with that, or you go and stand alone. I think that is the democracy that can be allowed. And don't expect even when you call a meeting people to come and agree with you. No, there are those who will challenge the decision that you want to make, or who will refuse to go by the request you are trying to make. And that does not mean that they are misunderstanding. No, but it's a freedom of choice.
Nairobi?
About Margaret Wajero, we have not yet received any other request. When the by-election was being announced, because maybe at that time also our party was not there, and maybe some people did not want to go as independent candidates for Nairobi, but the only person who came and talked to us was Margaret Wajero. And then we cannot go around asking people, do you want to stand? Do you want to stand? That's the only request we received. We went by it, and we had no other choice. But if we had two, we would have done the same.
Okay. The perception every time we see, I mean, you've talked about, Mheshimiwa, this being an affiliate of the Greater Jubilee Party, right? The perception is that every time we see a creation as such, it's not necessarily to establish political ideologies, but it's for people to gain some kind of political expediency. How would you change that perception? Because it would look as though, to many people, that the creation of such is then to put somebody in the front line politically. Is this different here?
You have gone off.
Okay, I
cannot tell you.
Okay, I can repeat the question.
Yes, now I can hear you.
Okay, all right, super. So what I'm saying is that when we see the creation of such, the perception by many people is that an affiliate, as you've called it, is to create spaces for people to, get to the front politically, and not necessarily to bring about any kind of development agenda ideologically. Is that the case here? That it's an opportunity for then people to be seen and be heard politically?
Are you talking about?
I'm talking about the formation of this party, the formation of this party affiliate.
You have disappeared again.
Senator, we're still here. So basically the question is, with regards to the formation of this party, how different is it going to be from all the other parties that are formed?
You cannot... it is, the question you are putting is like telling me the reporting of the news in Kenya through media stations has been totally unacceptable. Since you have come up with this new station now, how can you guarantee us that it is going to be different than the other? The only thing I can give an answer, you can give an answer to that is that we believe that we are going to be different from others. And unless that is put into practice, people cannot get to understand how different you're going to be. And by demonstrating through the nomination have indicated, we have set a record of saying we are starting like this, and that is the way we want to do. But in general, you cannot start now saying we are going to do this. The only thing is democracy. Allow democracy to take place, and it will be practiced in every stage. For example, many political parties have been having the leadership of elected leaders in political parties through people either appointing themselves or picking themselves. Like me, I'm an interim chairman of UDA, just to supervise with a small secretariat how the election of the party is going to be held. And now for us to be different from other political parties now, after giving you the narrative of nomination that we are going to use, let me tell you how we are going to hold our elections of the party. We are going to start from polling station, where officials will be elected there. Then from there, we will move to the village, where people will be elected there. Leaders will be elected from sub-location, then location, then division, then sub-count, And then from there, we'll move to the counties. And then from there, the 47 counties with elected leaders now will meet and elect the national leaders. And you can see now that alone makes a difference from our other political parties, except KANU, that was constructed under such arrangements and such foundation, but it lost it as time went. But that's where we want to go. And that is exemplary different and an exceptional way of conducting party elections, which has never taken place in this country since 1963.
All right, let's look at what you hope to do as this is rise to the top leadership of the country. I'm sure your party will be fielding a presidential candidate in 2022, isn't it?
Yes.
And it's likely going to be anyone who comes and beats or is defeated by William Ruto, isn't it?
Yes.
So, if we say that UDA is seeking to then run this country, have a UDA administration in this country, how different is it likely to be? If, for example, let's just say, this is just, hypothetically, that William Ruto vies for the presidential ticket of UDA, William Ruto gets the UDA presidential ticket, William Ruto then vies as president, and let's look at all the members of parliament and Senate who have expressed support for UDA. How different are they going to be from what we are seeing with the Jubilee administration, which UDA is collaborating with?
Let me start by saying this, my brother, and I want to back again, take you to your own professional area of operation, and that is the media.
Yep.
You had the KTN station, which was there before.
Yep.
Then you brought another station on the same name of KTN, but news.
Yes.
If I ask you today, what difference have you brought or do you expect to bring in the future with the two radio stations? You tell me one will broadcast news 24/7, and the other one will just be like another TV station.
Yep.
And that's the answer you give me. So we cannot now start comparing UDA and its leadership with the Jubilee that is in place now and that is serving. Well, what I can say is that in every administration that comes in will have its own policy and a way of doing things for the citizens who will have elected that administration.
Perhaps I can ask the question.
We expect to have a lot of changes, a lot of different applications to leadership than what has been there currently and what has been there before. Let me give you an example of one thing that is taking place today. Like today, if UDA was in the leadership, there's no way we can be talking about amending a good constitution like the one we have by spending money and not to deal with the current issues that is affecting Kenyans, like the parent school fees, medication, paying of nurses and doctors, teachers, and so on. When you set that aside and say, let us first of all work with the constitution that we have, meet Kenyans' needs, and then if there will be an idea of amending the constitution, that is not a priority, but it can be dealt with it later on. That is one example.
So if we're to talk of priorities, Mheshimiwa, what then would you say would be the priorities that UDA would have?
You know, my brother, in leadership, it is just like the life you live in your home. You see, you have certain fixed expenditures or expenses which you cannot afford, like paying water, paying electricity, buying food, and taking your children to school. But also, while you are doing that, there will be issues which will be of high demand, like someone will get sick and be taken to the hospital. You deal with that issue when you are there, when that time comes. But at the moment, and I want you to understand me, at the moment, Kenyans are faced by myriads of different problems. Instead of dealing with that, we are dealing with other issues of creating positions, changing the constitution to create positions for certain people, and having priorities which does not help Kenyans. So what I'm saying is this: there are the demanding issues, and one is education for Kenyans. That must be made free for Kenyans to be able to go to school. Number two, it is health. Kenyans must be provided with good health that will make them be productive in whatever they are doing. Number three, Kenyans will need to put food on their table. And when you talk about those things, you are talking about water, you are talking about health, and then you're talking about education. Those are the first priorities. And then from there, you can look at other things. You can look at building roads, you can look at building SGRs, you can look at buying aircraft, you can look at putting carpets on roads and whatever you want, the red ones, whatever you want. But the first priority for Kenya that I will insist as one of the leaders in UDA to take place is that, so that Kenyans can have a better life even if they don't become rich.
So, Mheshimiwa, this is obviously something that you will be speaking out about. When we hear this party, UDA, speaking, who do you want Kenyans to listen to? You've said that it's affiliate of Jubilee. So are you saying that you're going to, are you splitting voices here? Or are you saying that when UDA speaks, essentially, Jubilee is also speaking?
Let us say this. The leadership of Jubilee currently will end in 2022. So even if now some of the leaders who are in Jubilee now will be in UDA, they will have to adopt a new policy of that administration. You don't transfer the ideas of leadership from the old administration to a new administration. You saw Moi. Moi took over from Kenyatta. Kenyatta was not giving free milk to students in schools. But Moi came in and started giving milk. That's just another good example. So you cannot say we are moving to a current Jubilee, and because we are going to have other Kenyans coming from Jubilee to join UDA and form a new government, the operations of the government will be like the current Jubilee. It is not like that. Please, even now, where you are seated now, if KTN gets a new managing director tomorrow, that new managing director will try to bring in ideas that will change the operation of KTN to look even much better than the way it was looking before the new MD came in. And if that MD is not capable of doing that, then he has no business to take KTN as a new managing director. I think I'm making it myself crystal clear with very good illustration.
Indeed you are. Let me ask you this question. From where you sit, even in 2017, you were not a member of Jubilee. Now, because you're party leader of UDA, then you are therefore affiliated with Jubilee. But as Johnson Muthama, do you think the Jubilee administration has performed well in the last 7 years or 8 years in power?
I want to say, although I was opposing the Jubilee leadership, I was doing that not because I was doing by hating someone or disliking someone or disliking Jubilee as a party. But I did that according to the mandate I was given to be in the opposition to apply checks and balances. And frankly speaking, Jubilee performed in the first 5 years. And then after 2017, there is no development agenda that is taking place now. Instead, those who were in the opposition, leading the opposition and the government of Jubilee came together, the president and the opposition leader. They came together, they shook hands, and they said, now we are going to work together and try to formulate ways and means. So now we are going to remain in power. And the concentration of the development agendas stopped at that point. So I want to say there is a mix of two different things. One, there was performance. Then later on, it is failed. And that's why we are finding ourselves being overloaded with the debt, which we moved from 1.8 billion shillings that has been borrowed by our past president, the founding father of the nation, Kenyatta, Moi, and the Kibaki. And now, with the Jubilee by having these differences and problems, and after losing the concentration, we are close to 9.2 trillion shillings on debt. So we cannot say that there was that perfect performance. But of course, yes, the Jubilee government is something in the past 5 years.
The point is well made, Mheshimiwa, but there's something that has bedeviled us right from independence, and it seems to increase with every passing election and presidency. It's called impunity, which is manifested in corruption. Would UDA consider the elimination or the complete reduction of this particular disease a priority?
Let me first of all, my brother, not speak about. Let me speak not speak about the government that is not in place, but clearly, let me see this from where Mugabe stands, because I don't believe in stealing public funds. I don't believe in robbing the poor. I don't believe in impunity. And stopping with that 2, 3 points, let me say this. You saw when I was in the Wiper, and Kalonzo Musyoka fronted his son to be posted to a Allah in Arusha. My brother, Kalonzo Musyoka, I cautioned him on his face, and I told him this is totally unacceptable. That now makes you see that we have differences, and this is one of the issues that caused me, in addition to what I read before, get the party. So impunity to me will not be allowed. Because look at this. Uhuru Kenyatta is the president of Kenya. Prime Minister Raila Odinga is one of the top leaders we wanted to take the leadership of this country. He takes his brother to Arusha. Uhuru appoints his first cousin, Betty Mugo, to Senate. Irrespective of what Kenyans' wishes are vested. The reason I'm saying that is impunity. I'll fight it. I've fought it. I'm fighting it now through these examples, and I'll fight it. The other one is corruption. Me, myself, I've never done business with the government. Me, myself, I've never taken anything from the government. I don't believe in stealing, but I believe in putting the resources and the roads in this country to Kenyans. Because once we do that, they will make money, they will pay taxes, the government will get enough money. That will not be allowed by Senator Mugabe, wherever you be seated. So, in short, my stand will be to say this is the way. Maybe at that time, the president I'll be having will be listening. He will listen to me and others, and we will try to change things in this country. And there is first thing to echo my brother. As I say, now look at the way we are speaking now. You are at the station. This never happened 10 years ago. This was not to happen 20 years ago. But it went with the changes and believing with the leadership that is where you are seated now. And because changes must take place, we are now speaking through all of us a small gadget called Zoom, and we can listen to each other. I expect change must take place in Kenya. There must be first day for that change, and I think if God gives us life and I'll be part of the government, that will be in UDA. I would either be in to bring change, or I'll be out saying change will never come.
I don't want us to end without me asking this question, Mheshimiwa, because you are fronting yourselves as the Hustlers Party. In fact, even your symbol, the wheelbarrow, is going all the way to the Hustlers Party. But then looking at the leadership, you have a billionaire as a party leader. We have a doctor who has served in Parliament and Senate as the deputy party leader. We have a billionaire who wants to be the presidential candidate. What options, what positions do you want to reserve for the hustler? The actual hustler that you keep referring to, what position do they have in this party, apart from just being a voting machine?
Let me start by saying, if you talk about Mugabe, who's a person, and you come to Mugabe can start telling you and demonstrate to you how he used to buy stones for 5 shillings, put them in his pocket, and come and sell them and make a living. And the Mugabe grew up there. It was one room small face. Mudama grew up there up to a 2-room office. And so on. I can now give you a narrative on how to go. If you ask me about Deputy President, you are saying it's a billionaire or a millionaire. That is difficult to say because, you see, many people have been taught to be rich in this country. They ended up dying as poor people. Look at now, even the former tycoons, you keep on calling them tycoons. We see them passing on. We thought there was a lot of money, only to realize that the guys, they were living wrong. So it is difficult to talk about Kalwale or talk about Ruto, but I can talk about myself. And when I would sit down and give advice on how we should behave in the government, I'm not going to talk about how President Kenyatta behaved or Raila or Kalonzo, my cousin. No, I'll talk about Mudama. And I say, Mudama did this, and this is what I wish to do. So everybody with an idea of stealing public funds should erase it and keep it away. Because personally, myself, where I'm seated and being part of the government, I'm not going to allow that. But now to start saying so and so is a billionaire, how do you know he has money? He's not living from loan. And when he borrows, he does not.
My question was the person that we know is not a billionaire. How does that person get a voice? How does a person in Marikiti, how does a person who is actually working with a wheelbarrow this morning get a voice in UDA?
My friend, let us be open and speak of the lives of the people we know very well. You yourself, you know where you come from. And you know 99% of the people from the location you come from, they work with 3 things. They work with wheelbarrow, peleka shamba, manure hapa, na hapa, na hapa, na hapa. So that is what that person wants. Huyo mtu anataka njembe, huyo mtu anataka panga, huyo mtu anataka shovel, anataka kijiko. And by doing that, that is the common mwananchi. Those are the things that you are looking for. You are looking to sit at KTN, have a cup of tea, cup of coffee, be on time, have electricity, have a flushing toilet, have clean water. The people in the village where you come from, myself where I come from, 99% of the people, they are not looking at that on that life. So what they want is some instruments to be able to move the products from the shamba, 5 bananas, 5 bags of potatoes, to move them to the market. They can only do that with the hotel, or they can only do that with wheelbarrow, and they can do cultivation with those mere things.
Johnson Mudama, we have run out of time, Mudama. Thank you very much for speaking to us today. We will invite you again as the party then gathers momentum, as you go into recruitment drive, as you go into getting more and more people into your party, and as you also galvanize your messaging to the people. We'll be inviting you to have more and more of these conversations. Johnson Mudama is the party leader of the UDA. This is the United Democratic Alliance. Asante sana for speaking to us this morning.
Asante. God bless you, and we'll talk.
Thank you very much, sir.
And it's time for us to say goodbye to our audience on KTN Home. You've been with us since 7 o'clock up to now, coming up to 9 o'clock. These conversations happen every weekday morning, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. We'll have more conversations on radio. In the next hour, we want to look at this Hustler Dynasty narrative. Is it holding water? Is it not? We want to bring you in. Let's look at what has happened over the weekend in terms of politics. There's this new party. There's an election coming up. Not an election, but nomination hearings happening in the assembly this week for Nairobi. There is the issue of Hustler versus Dynasty. There is the issue of who's really in charge. Is the president in charge? Is it a lion that's been rained on? Or is it a cat that's dried up? What is it exactly? That and more coming up. It's now 9 o'clock. Good morning.
Spice up your life.
Okay, so everywhere you look around the city today, if we're looking specifically at Nairobi, there's traffic everywhere. Let's look at Jogoo Road, where it's about a hold-up right there at the roundabout, heading towards industrial area or towards Landis Road and into the CBD, moving very slowly, even up as we are getting round to 9 o'clock. On Kiambu Road, absolutely no movement. Well, a little bit here and there, but it's a bumper-to-bumper situation Then moving slowly and connecting with the Thika Superhighway. We saw 2 accidents already this morning. So the service lanes today are your friend. As you get off Thika Road, you want to use Wangari Maathai Road if you're not public service. Other than that, you're going to have to stay in that one, and it's moving very slowly. Ngong Road to town this morning is not where you want to be. A truck of hay fell and overturned on the Windy Ridge Ngong Road Junction, unfortunately, and that is what is causing that traffic. That is yet to have been removed, so it's moving very slowly. So everywhere you look today, it's slow. Mombasa Road as well. However, the bypasses, again, are your friends. Let's talk if you get stuck. Spice FM KE on Twitter. Text 40127.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life. This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latin,
it's 2 minutes
agent
to 9 o'clock.
provocateur.
Thank you very much for tuning in. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. It's the Situation Room. Let's begin with today's proverb, CT.
Right.
Right.
Dine with a stranger. However, as they say, nonetheless, keep your love for your family.
Say that again.
Dine with a stranger, but save your life for your family.
Dine with a stranger, but save your love for the family. Okay. Okay. Top of the hour, we'll hear what exactly you mean by this. So you've had a conversation with Johnston Muthama, the party leader of UDF, in that final question there, which he did not answer. Well, UDA, sorry, did you say UDF? UDA, right?
Mm-hmm.
The final question I feel he did not answer, which was, huyu mwananchi wa kawaida, the hustler, right? What voice do they have in the party? And he went back to say, even Muthama is a hustler. Even, Ruto is a hustler. Even Khalwale is a hustler. If you look at people and they appear to be rich, you don't know. Maybe they're not rich. Maybe they're just rich in debt.
Valid point he's made. But perceptions?
Perceptions are that he is not, right? That yes, he may have a story. In fact, now that way, again, these guys keep falling into each other's traps. So when Muthama speaks and says, I represent the hustler, and he can speak up and say, where he started by having just 2 or 3 stones, gemstones, and putting them in the pocket and going to sell, into putting more gemstones into a wheelbarrow, into putting them on a truck, into now having proper gemstones business where he is able now to afford the kind of lifestyle that he leads. That is showing that he's come from a hustler side. It's the same thing that the hustlers will say, that this is exactly where our father started. This is exactly where our family wealth started. Started from reading the meter, into getting an opportunity to go and study in the UK, into coming back into the country, into joining the freedom fighter movement, into then becoming president, into all that. It starts from somewhere where this young man was dirt poor. So where does it come in? And this is why we want to open up this conversation. Hustler versus dynasties. And how, sometimes it becomes clear, sometimes it just becomes grey. It comes back again and there. Clear, it becomes grey. It's clear when the hustler himself is actually involved. And not the hustler himself is not William Ruto, but the hustler himself is this person who Muthama is saying, in the village, who uses a wheelbarrow on a daily basis, mtu wa mjengo, mtu wa soko, mtu wa kuliba, this person who works on a daily basis to eke out a living, and they don't make so much money that they become billionaires, that's a hustler. Versus the people who then appear to be representing them.
It's all very sensational. But then they can mention them until they're blue in the face. But then so what? This person is a hustler. So what? We are resonating with this person. So what? If you're following action, or if when you have been in a position, because you can't say that you suddenly realized that there were people who struggle every day for a living. They've been there as long as Kenya has. You can't say that you suddenly realize that these people exist. So you've realized that they exist, and you find that there's a common tool that you can now resonate with, and that you can be on the same playing ground as them. So what? If you're not going to do anything about it, if you have been in a position where you have not done anything about it for the last 15 years, then you might as well say nothing. Because at the end of the day, the reason why they resonate with you so strongly is the hope that lies therein that you are actually going to do something permanent about their situation that would improve. There's nothing glorious about being in a situation that you have to struggle and sweat every day. You're hoping that your struggle and sweat every day becomes, that you would leave that situation and it becomes better every day. That's why you're doing it. But it seems as if you're calling out this hustler narrative, whatever it is, but guess what? You're keeping those people there. So what does it mean for people? That they're hustlers and that's going to be the story they tell for the rest of their lives? These people are looking, everybody who has to struggle is looking for a situation that will be better tomorrow. But if you ask me, it's blackmail.
Blackmail?
Yeah, we resonate with you. Yeah, we resonate with you now, come and support us. But now as we give you the support, these people who are struggling every day, the people who are looking for school fees, he talked about it. The people who are looking for that wheelbarrow or whatever in the village to farm, guess what? They remain in that position. So until and unless you're using their narrative to bring them out, you're resonating with them and you're leaving them where they are, you're not doing anything. You're just as bad, quote unquote, as the person you say is living in the dynasty.
It's actually empty rhetoric. If you
Absolutely. You're just using it to your own end.
As I listen to it, and it's a tirade really, I do not hear of a structured plan that the leaders of new political parties, old political parties have of saying, look, this is how we are going to go about this. We have this problem in this sector of the economy. This is what we are going to set in place. The summary is this. The detail we have in this manifesto or whichever document that these organizations tend to have. If it is the issue of corruption, the thing that we want to do is this is how we want to, because corruption is not the problem, it's the impunity. It's manifested. The corruption is what manifests the impunity as we see it clearly. This is how we want to do it. This is the path we want to follow. Now hold us. Remember that accountability, we talk, okay? Hold us accountable by these methods and these processes and by these standards that we are saying we are going to maintain. So long as someone doesn't want the public to hold them accountable, everything is just empty rhetoric because you're just saying what everybody else is saying and using different words.
Oh yeah, all you're coming to do is tell me that you understand my position and I too was like you one day.
That we also get.
Very nice.
We get.
It's good. You worked hard and you came out.
We get.
The environment was then conducive for you to flourish. It's understandable.
We get. But what is your plan to
get
ensure
me now out? Not
to be like you, just so that the basic things which are enshrined in the Constitution and which are my rights are actually met. Just those basics. What are these things that you and your people and the people in your party and in your group, what is it that you say you are going to do? And what are these things that you want us to hold you accountable to producing and providing? I don't hear it. Do you hear it?
I don't hear it. And that's what I'm saying. There is nothing glorious about having to sweat every day and then get something minimal to feed your family. It is not glorious. It is not a nice place to be. If we want to be honest about people who are really struggling in this country, it's not glorious. However, what I see is that it's being swapped for this political expediency that we keep talking about. But these people, the majority of the people in this country, are not being pulled out of that situation. And until and unless you have a plan, you have something that is going to be able to raise people out of this place where they are that you can now use to call them hustlers, then stop it. Stop it. Use something else.
I've said this before, that for this whole hustler movement to actually make sense to me is when the hustlers themselves are then involved in running the party, and they're also being seriously positioned into running the country, where they address their own issues. So, for instance, today, if we look at the hustlers in Nairobi, if I heard from the leadership of UDA that they went around and they wanted to champion the hustler narrative and the hustler movement by empowering the hustlers to run the city county of Nairobi. Now that there's a vacancy in Nairobi, all the hustlers in Nairobi, can we come together? Can we decide how are we going to elect a leader who completely resonates with the hustler sweat and blood of Nairobi to become the next governor of Nairobi?
Who understands
and we as a party, we shall use our machinery, our power, our resources to support and elevate and campaign for this person so that the next governor of Nairobi County is somebody who we say has come from Marikiti, has come from Grogon, has come from wherever. But it's somebody who comes from this hustler, comes from a wheelbarrow background. But now, what do we see? We see a former assistant minister. We see a leader who has served as an MP, who is a leader in the religious movement. We see somebody who's already been there. A couple of years have passed since she was that hustler. She may still remember, but a couple of years have passed. She has moved on to the other side.
She's crossed over. She's moving on up tonight.
Yes.
Okay. She doesn't have to think about it.
For me, and that's why I kept asking that question of Johnson Mudama, how do you ensure that these hustlers then are the owners, the real owners, and the ones who are running this party? Such that even if you say, okay, all those coming together will agree that William Ruto represents them and he has the expertise and experience to be at the national level of running a country because he's been a deputy president for 10 years, it's fine. He becomes a presidential candidate. Okay, but who becomes governor? Who becomes MCAs? Who becomes senator? Who become the other structures within the political party itself? Who are they?
Remember, Eric, what you're saying really resonates well. But remember, it's against this backdrop of what people who pursue higher political offices deem to be signs of success. There's a culture that we have in the country that when someone ascends a certain position of authority, of whether it's politically or whether it's in government, then they must assume a certain lifestyle that is commensurate with their position. And it usually doesn't resonate with uplifting those who actually are in the position that he should be serving. The people whose lives he should be most concerned about, unfortunately, and the things that pertain to those livelihoods that he's supposed to look after, take a back seat. The positioning of these individuals to present themselves as leaders and to also exhibit the trappings of what leaders are supposed to have takes center stage, and everything that they talk about when they are campaigning and which they're supposed to do gets lost somewhere in this mist of political rhetoric. So, even as we hear of new parties being formed, it is a good thing. It means our politics is vibrant, and it means that the processes of ensuring that people have their voices and their interest represented is actually alive and well in the country. However, when it comes to meeting the needs of the common man, as he or she is referred to, we are a far cry away from actually seeing political parties that have set in motion things. Again, rhetoric we hear of. Big sounding statements we hear of. Big schemes we hear of.
Plenty.
But processes and details of how we can hold these individuals accountable for the things they promised they would do, I do not see, neither do I hear of. Perhaps you do.
We want to take a break now and see what's happening in terms of the weather and then open up the phone lines for you to join the conversation. When we talk about hustler versus dynasty, is it a reality? Is it really about hustlers versus dynasties, or is it something else? Does the hustler versus dynasty narrative hold water? That's a question we're asking. Call us in 0719-012-600. That's 0719-012-600. Or you can post your comment on Spice FM KE Facebook or Twitter or Instagram, where we are taking all your comments. It's an interesting conversation. 9:15. Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life.
Sugar and spice and everything nice, just the way you like it.
The Spice Drive.
Did you have a great day? I hope you did. I intend to make it better from 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. I'm going to be taking you home nice and chill. Everyone is welcome aboard. The hashtag is Spice Drive and, of course, Spice FMKE on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
The weather with Spice FM.
Cloudy, Nairobi. Some sun here and there. 18 degrees. We'll see a high of 23 today. The high will be 24 in Nakuru. Currently mostly cloudy at 19. Mostly cloudy in Nyeri as well. 21 the high and lows of 14. 13 will be the low in Eldoret. Cloudy conditions this morning at 19. And mostly cloudy in Kisumu as well. Highs of 26 and lows of 18. We're looking at a few clouds in Kakamega. 26 will be the high and lows of 15. 27 and mostly cloudy in Mombasa. 30 degrees the high. Coming down to lows of 24. We're going to see cool lows of 16 in Malindi today, with highs of 25 and a chance of rain later. Mostly cloudy in Kampala, moving out of Kenya. 20 degrees. We'll see highs of 30 in Dar es Salaam. 27 and mostly cloudy at the moment. Rain continues in Johannesburg. Highs of 25 and lows of 16, and it's a warm day in Lagos. 25 at the moment with rain, highs of 32. And also the rain continues in Kinshasa at 23. We'll see highs of 30. It's warming up in Beijing now at 1 degree going into the early evening. And 1 will be the high, coming down to lows of -8 through the day. It's just freezing in Paris at 0. Cloudy conditions, highs of 5 and coming back down to lows of 0 flat. 6 degrees and cloudy in London. We'll see highs of 9 and lows of 6. And now into Monday morning in New York, it's 1 degree and clear skies. Lows will be 0 and highs of 3.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right.
The question this morning at 18 minutes
Spice
past 9.
FM,
Does the hustler
Nairobi.
versus dynasty narrative really hold water? Let's go to the phone lines. Rebecca in Nairobi, good morning.
Morning, team. How are you?
Very
morning.
well,
Fine, thank you.
Happy New Year, Rebecca.
Happy New Year to you. Ndu, sister, this is directly to you. I don't know, growing up, did you have a situation where you had a cookout and you're all women in the kitchen and the matriarch in the family gives advice when you're waiting for the pot of stew or jollof rice to cook, and all of you sit there and are like, oh my goodness, you have finally said what has been bothering me. I don't understand this hustler narrative. I really don't. There's nothing to be glorified about being poor. Really, honestly, there's nothing. Okay, so can they tell us who amongst these hustlers has gone out and built a library where kids are learning, empowering themselves, where they're not waiting for handouts? I'm not talking about kazi mitaani or, just handouts, temporary things. I want to know who has done something to actually uplift the environment they're in. Not anything lofty. Where, do you have a book club?
Absolutely.
Do you have not the campaign medical camp that they do to show you that they're coming to do medical camp and they care for you and this campaign. I'm not talking about that village road that is only fixed when there's a campaign. I'm talking about where's a book club for kids?
Right.
That's true. Good questions. Thank you very much,
just
Rebecca.
Nonsense, honestly. Okay, thanks, team.
Necessary,
Thank you.
sure.
Thank you. Samuel in Meru, good morning.
Okay, good morning.
How are you today, Samuel?
I'm fine, thank you. On that, on contributing to the hustler narrative, I think that's a very misleading ideology. When you start balkanizing the country into two, classes, the rich versus the poor, you are inciting the masses. And the people who are propagating this narrative, like His Excellency, the Deputy President, he has never been a hustler. That guy has been, he knew Moi, he knew the president when he was still in university. He should stop inciting, the masses. Honorable Ruto has been in government since he should be doing right now. He should be concentrating on selling his ideologies and agenda based on the 7 years or the 8 years he has been in government. So I think that's a very, very dangerous, path to take. We cannot afford to leave this country where 90% of the people are struggling and they're inciting them, against the few people who are rich. So we need to stop that.
Thank you.
Forward.
Thank you, Samuel. Thank you very much. Brian in Nairobi, good morning.
Good morning to you guys.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, I think we are getting it wrong with this hustler thing. It's not a binary thing. If you belong to hustler, the rest do not belong to dynasty. In fact, I've never heard the deputy president talk about dynasty. I have never, even once. You see, a hustler is not equal to being poor. That's another misconception. At least we know the street value of a hustler. Hustler is a person who struggles to make ends meet. He did not inherit anything from his father or mother. He started from scratch. And that's what the deputy president is selling. In fact, it's selling hope that you can start from somewhere and end being somewhere.
Okay.
So being a billionaire also does not exclude you from being a hustler. So the dynasty aspect, if you look even at the dictionary definition, it's a very small group. So it cannot be a binary thing about hustler and dynasty. Number two, the DP did not start calling himself a hustler just yesterday. Even when he was in Jubilee, he was called a hustler. It's a name he has taken for a long time. So I don't know why people are worried right now because of it, because it's not a new thing to him.
You say when he was in Jubilee? He's no longer in Jubilee? You said even when he was in Jubilee?
When he was in URP.
Oh, okay.
And technically, we are not strangers in Jerusalem. There's a big problem in Jubilee. And people must appreciate one thing. You see, the thing I like about ODM, for example, they have regular meetings. When they come up with a party position, it's something that they have discussed over with time. But Jubilee, all its organs are not even constituted. The interim officials, their terms expired. We saw it became a headline when a deputy party leader visits the party office. So that thing of Jubilee is, it's not a democratic party. They say a party position. They say a party position, but the party organs have never met. We've never had a PG. We've never had a NEG meeting. So for Jubilee Party to claim that, even I've heard you guys saying the president cracked the whip, they chased some people from office. Who took that position? Because Jubilee does not belong to the party leader or the party officials. They are organs to deal with this thing.
Okay.
So you remember that joke about Bill Gates when he was asked, why don't you give good tip and your son give us a good tip? And he said, the son is a son of a billionaire, but I'm not. So those people calling themselves dynasty, because they're calling themselves, because I've never had the deputy president calling them dynasty, they know why they're calling themselves that.
He has referred to those families, Bwana Brian.
I can tell you.
In fact, Brian, the discussion of dynasties versus hustler, the person who's popularized it is our deputy president.
I'm saying you guys, if you're in media, pull any clip that the deputy president...
He has used the word dynasty. So he hasn't used the word dynasty, but has he talked about families?
He has talked about hustler.
Thank you very much, Brian. Thank you.
Okay.
Renson in Gong, good morning.
Hi, Eric.
How are you?
I'm all right.
Happy New Year, Renson. Thank you very much for calling in.
You're running a very good program.
Asante sana. Does the hustler versus dynasties narrative hold water?
It doesn't, and I'm surprised that you have fallen for it, hook, line, and sinker. But what I wonder, how do we push a narrative that pushes merit for people who have this country at heart?
Sorry, we're not getting you clearly, Renson.
What I say, how do we push a narrative of merit? Instead of having the dynasty versus hustler and talking about how a hustler understands their own problem. I'm not sure they understand. Like your guest today really did not answer any of the questions. For instance, when you ask him about what agenda he has for us, he will provide the tools. We are not lacking the tools. What you're lacking is, once you produce your good in your shamba, what is the market? That is a big problem. It's not, if the wheelbarrow was the issue, I would have bought wheelbarrows for all my people who don't have jobs. A wheelbarrow is very cheap. But the problem is, our products don't have markets because of the poverty level.
Yeah.
How are you going to improve our poverty level? How are you going to reduce it? Until you answer that question, no one is handling the hustlers or the people who are struggling in our country. No one is handling their problems the way it should be.
No one is addressing it. Thank you very much, Ranson. Have a good day.
Good day to guys.
Anthony in Kisumu, good morning.
Good morning, team, and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, Anthony.
My first contribution in 2021.
Karibu sana.
The hustler narrative holds water. One, because politics is about representation and interest. There are only two partisan interests in Kenya, the haves and the have-not. And there's a notion that politicians are the solution to Kenyan problems. So if 90% of Kenyans don't make ends meet daily, then the person who represents them is the person who has their interest. The person who gives them wheelbarrows and mkokotenis, than the person who says, I'll bring a 3 triple-letter policy that will in 20 years do ABCD for you. So the dynasty things, I think, they represent a clique of the society. And as a caller before me said, it's not a binary thing. I'm neither a hustler nor am I a dynasty. And several Kenyans, including you people, are.
So but, you're somewhere in the middle.
It holds what in the context of Kenyan politics, because it's about interest and representation. The hustler represents the majority of Kenyans, and politics is about numbers. The dynasty represents a clique of those who have, those who've made it, those who come from those royal families. And even if you hear the way they talk, it's about protecting their interests. So the majority of Kenyans want the hustler interest to be protected, and the person who protects that, I think, to them is the hustler. So it holds water in context of Kenyan politics. In the demographics of the country, no, because it's not either you're a hustler or a dynasty. There are people in between. I don't know what to call ourselves, but we are neither.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Anthony. Thank you very much. 0719-012-600. As we go into this break, we're also looking at what people are saying on social media. Very many comments coming in on Facebook and Twitter. What are they saying? Oyo Evans Ayoma says, the pot of populism is brewing. I don't know how they will get out of it in 6 years. David Mutende says, hiyo ni kitu kidogo sana. I'm still digesting the two tribes issue. Victor says hustlers have always existed even before Mudama and Ruto came up with UDA. They just bring it up now because it's a means to something else, that is power. Fidel Jesus says it's pure nonsense, some brainwashing by billionaires to whip the poor into a poverty mentality. And Kipchumba Koro says it holds no water. Hustler nation to start with is a scam. Johnson Mudama, you're even richer than the DP apparently. The others are also richer the same way. Okay, this is what they're saying. Spice FMKE on Facebook, on Twitter. What do you think? Does the hustler versus dynasty narrative hold water? Does it even exist? Is it the solution? Is it the way to run our politics? What do you think about all this? We'd like to hear from you. 0719-012-600. Time for us to take a break. Coming up to 9:30. Let's see what's happening on the roads, and then we pick your calls. Good morning.
Spice FM.
Hey, it's getting hot in here. The media has greatly contributed to the moral rot that we experience in this country.
I remember a senior politician telling me, point blank, nobody steals in the field, it's stolen in the granary. So my friend, if you're going to win an election, jipange kwa granary.
I think we are suffering from Stockholm Syndrome. Our violator and abuser is also our redeemer in our mind.
The whole political class, the whole political institution is rotten. It is based on ideals that cannot progress our country forward.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
All right, still clogged up in some areas of Nairobi this morning. We're still looking at slowly moving on Mombasa Road. Today we had a problem all the way from the Machakos Junction, and then it piles onto that's happening at Mlolongo, piles onto what's happening at the SGR, and then further on to Cabanas. So this one was one for the books today, guys, as is happening on Thika Road as well. Gong Road is the problem, all the way from MPC Gong Road down through. You can't get to the roundabout as quickly as you would like. There was an accident that happened on the Windy Ridge Karen Road this morning, so that took some time. Thika Road, also very slow, getting into the CBD this morning. And so there's traffic in many places that you look. Uhuru Highway from Nyayo Stadium roundabout all the way through to Westlands, moving very slowly this morning, taking some time out of that. So it is a Monday morning. We're going to have to stick with it, guys. Talk to us in case there are incidents or you find a better route to use. Let us know. Spice FM KE on Twitter. The bypasses can be used, or text 40127.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
012 600 or Spice FM KE on YouTube, on Facebook and Twitter. Jans II says the way the rich cabal uses their monetary muscle to influence and escalate nepotism through positions or favors in any administration makes the narrative hustler versus dynasty hold water. They use their monetary position, their position where they are, to basically just advance and perpetuate the name, shall we say, the family name. Once you get in there, you move on. So yeah, you can say that Jaramogi was not dynasty. But would you say that Raila Jr., if he got into any elective position today and he was vying, the name itself would help him get to a certain position?
It does. It does. Because you see, a name isn't just a name. No. A name is also representative of whatever achievements the person has had to gain the sort of position that they have within the society. So when you have that name, it's why among us Africans, the issue of a name takes a very, very key position when it comes to how it is that you are viewed or the respect that is accorded to you in the society. It has to do with your name. What they actually mean is not name, but the reputation that name carries.
Sure.
Yes. So if, for instance, your father had a reputation, or your ancestors had a reputation that was a little colorful, yeah, the same follows. That it won't be very useful to you. Because that is also dynastic.
Yeah.
And you will
the assumption that dynastic was good only.
Oh no! Wrong
assumption.
If you come from the wrong family,
if you come from a family of night runners and it is known, it's also dynastic. So if you exhibit weird behavior, people automatically assume and they understand, actually we shouldn't really make too big an issue out of this, given the heritage that this person has. So the reason why this becomes a serious thorn in the flesh of many people, or it becomes a bone of contention, is simply this. Political dynasties are associated with wealth in the country. And unfortunately, representatively, one doesn't see an uplifting of the poverty levels that people have that these dynasties can arguably have brought about. And the reason is because at some point or the other, they've been part and parcel of a government structure. And they've held position within that government. Now, there are things that many of them have done, but in living memory, or what is brought to the fore, doesn't represent the good that that people expect. Because if the good was there, then the dynasties would be welcome. They'd say, this is a good dynasty.
Yeah.
Because of this dynasty, we've been able to achieve A, B, C, D. Now, political improvements and achievements are good, but if they can't translate into economic benefits that people actually experience, then they're soon forgotten. Yes. They're quickly forgotten.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And then instead of being associated with something that is positive, one is then associated with things that they consider negative. In fact, they blame all the ills that they suffer on you because of the dynasty that you represent.
And let's be clear about some things. Yeah? When you talk about somebody starting off as a hustler, by virtue of the fact that they are now able to command millions, guess what? The hustler narrative ended. These are not folks who are looking to make ends meet. Like one of our callers said, they're not looking to make ends meet anymore. They're not even thinking about where food comes from on a daily basis. That's the least of their worries at that point. They're not thinking about that anymore, right? Now, it would seem as though that there is some kind of value that would be gained. And as painful as this sounds, there is some kind of value that would be gained by keeping the thousands of people who cannot make ends meet in that position. Because the beggar is the one then who is slave to the person who is handing out. The beggar then is the one who is looking for the handouts, the one who is in this position where they are not powerful enough to make ends meet for themselves or to feed on a daily basis, is always at the mercy of that one who is giving the handout. And there is something to be gained, unfortunately, by the person keeping those people in that position. So you will always you will always resonate with them because they're hoping for something from you.
For me,
Whereas what it should be is that the person who is the leader is the one who should be saying, how can we get you out of this? What can we do so that even those who come after you will not have to be in this position?
Like this. Especially somebody who has lived that. And we see that very many times. We see, when we hear stories across the country, somebody who grew up dirt poor has gotten to a position, they got a good job, they started to develop, and then they go back home and they start uplifting others. They say, all right, I'm going to start a bursary fund because of how I went through, hardship in going through education because of school fees. I'm going to start a bursary fund and I'll bring in other people who have influence to help to educate the people behind me. Not necessarily my family members, but people in this village. Okay, I'm going to use my position of influence to try and uplift others. Now, that is a hustler, but a hustler who wants to uplift others. The problem that I'm seeing here with this narrative, the problem being highlighted is the nepotism side of it. It is you using your position then to advance the name of your family through your kin, such that they're the ones who end up benefiting. It's your brother who goes to this particular position. It's your cousin. It's your son or daughter who gets this. It's your son or daughter who gets employed into the Foreign Affairs Ministry and is posted into some foreign embassy somewhere just because they have your name. This is it. This is the issue. So when you look at all of them and you're thinking, you guys, so how are you helping us? Let's go back to the phone lines. Zachary from Nakuru. Good morning.
Oh, good morning, guys.
Good morning,
How are
Zachary.
you, Zachary?
I was almost locked out of the conversation, and I really, this is the first time that I'm contributing to a very important topic.
Just the first time.
First of all, are you people good?
Yeah.
We are fine.
Well, thank you.
Oh, thank you. I'm happy to hear that. Now, I'm so much angered by the term dynasty and sijui the hustler. And let me tell you, Mr. Eric, at our ages, the four of us now, plus even the Easterner, we have known people who have been brought from they have come through abject poverty to be what they are today, And I tell you, I'm from Katutu South, And that is where I went to school. And let me give an example of one person, You know this, the MKU chairman, Mr. Gicharu,
Yep.
That is a person who came into class and taught me where he was a pauper. Me, myself, and I was with his brothers, And through hard work, he is what he is today,
Yep.
I give another example. The late Joseph Gogi Nyomu, the former MP of Gatudo South, I went to class with him. And I don't want to repeat the story of his mother, but he is a person who was brought in poverty. And through sheer hard work, we went to university, Egerton University, and through hard work and sacrifice, he became what he was before his death. Now, who is a dynasty? Let me tell you, Mr. Eric, that when you go to back to your estate, and the next person who is now to you, your neighbor, he feels that you guys are cooking meat, and probably they are helping themselves to Githeri or whatever, yeah? You become a dynasty to that person. Okay? So this idea of, I also worked in Mr. Uhuru's hotel, yeah? One of the hotels. And let me tell you, there's no difference between that is the rules as to how we are going to get money and make profit in the kiosk that is next to me. And when I was in that hotel, yeah, these people work hard. Okay, we can say that, okay, this person, because he is from this family or he had this name, that's an advantage that we can have, and we cannot blame them for that. But let me tell you, the most dangerous thing to happen in Kenya, Mr. Eric, and you're supposed to take a very big loudspeaker and say so, is this narrative of dynasty. Today, Mr. Eric, no one has prevented you from making $1 billion a day. For instance, suppose you go to a laboratory and you are able to come up with a vaccine, the COVID vaccine, you yourself, is it? Who has prevented you from making $1 billion a day? So what we need to do, Mr. Eric, okay, I believe that there is nepotism which favors some people because you know somebody who is well connected, is it?
Yep.
Let us make good laws. And who shall start with that? It is us, the electorate.
So we are the ones
that
to
we
do
want
this.
And this and this. So let us elect sane people who are not going to be compromised.
Okay.
Such that when they go to parliament, they make it like now today. There's something that I have invented. Okay, I keep telling you that I make some beauty things. Yeah, and like now I'm going I'm going somewhere to collect my check. Yeah, I have used my brain.
It is your hard work and sweat.
Hello.
It is your hard work and sweat.
Yes.
Thank you,
What
Zachary.
I need is,
Thank you.
I'm very angry, Mr. Eric. Can you guys have a nice day?
Asante.
Cheers,
Thank you.
Victor in Eldoret, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you, Victor?
I'm fine, thank you.
Hustler versus Dynasty?
Unajua kuna kitu yenye watu bado hawajaelewa vizuri. There's a big difference ya kuongozwa na mtu mwenye amekuwa hustler ever since, alafu akakuwa tajiri. Alafu kuna mtu mwingine pia amezaliwa kwa utajiri, na unaona sasa when even the DP gives wheelbarrows, si ati anapeana wheelbarrows pekee. Watu tu waliona wheelbarrow. He also gave vitu za salon to people. Alipeana pia vitu za washing machine enye imeandika watu job. And I even know someone mwenye alipata wheelbarrow and he started selling tomatoes akitumia kitu, and right now he's making in around 500 or 1,000 in terms of profits every day. Unaona sasa kuko hustler, I think those people mwenye alizaliwa as a hustler, kuna venye anaweza understand what people need wenye wako chini.
So ana internalize shida za watu. Can relate.
Understand what you need.
Okay.
Yes, because unaona ukiongozwa sana pia na mtu wa dynasty, like for example in this government, in terms of infrastructural development, mimi nawapatia thumbs up. Wameunda barabara kabisa na kila kitu imekuwa vizuri, as in SDR, hizi vitu zote wamefanya vizuri. But you see in terms of economical development, hiyo ni different na infrastructural development. Na economically tumeshuka juu, hata watu wengine biashara zao zimefungwa, many small and medium sized enterprises. Kuna watu wengine wana run on loans and cash in circulation iko chini. Unaona sasa, what is the point ya kunijengea lami inafika hadi kwa doorstep yangu and I don't even have market for my farm produce?
Okay.
Like me, I'm a chicken farmer. Sasa unajua, initially I used to sell chicken and watu wanakuja hadi kwangu, but saizi I have to look for people who will buy. People don't have spending power like the way it was initially.
Okay. I hear you, Victor. Thank you very much. Yeah. Thank you very much, Victor. Let's hear from Kennedy in Mombasa. Good morning.
Morning to you, Eric.
How are you? Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you all.
Happy New Year.
Nao naomba niendelee na pale Eric alikuwa ameachia. Huwa maslahi ya hao mabwana wakishapata viti ni kwa ajili ya hawa ndugu zao, dada zao, ama aliyebeba jina la kwake. Lakini tukumbuke tu rais juzi ameongea akiurifa kuhusiana na mambo ya mambo ya kuwa wewe ni familia hii inayochukiwa. Lakini wacha nitoe tu msemo mmoja, nadhani zangu pale Mswahili atatafakari. Inzi akiacha ujinga anaweza kutengeneza asali. Sasa Wakenya wengine ambao tuko kwenye hizi kabila zingine, sisi ni inzi. Ukiacha ujinga
tutengeneza
asali. Kwa hivyo mabwana wawili wasipeleke huku na huku. Rais anasema kabila mbili zimetawala kwa miaka 60. Alikuwa anatuambia sisi inzi. Tuache ujinga tutengeneze asali.
Sawa bana.
Asanteni.
Thank you, Kennedy. 0719-012-600. Time for us to take another quick break and then look at what you are saying as well on social media. Spice FM KE on Facebook, on Twitter, and on Instagram. And 0719-012-600. Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life. Welcome to Spice FM, the best exclusive radio station bringing you the best mix of the best music ever. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Hold water. What are you saying on social media?
Timothy Chamonga says, the more you continue discussing it, the more you make it hold water. Patrick Ramsey in Zomo says, dynasties have taken the poor as their slaves, and that must end. And that's why they're unhappy with the hustlers, because they know they have been cornered. Interesting.
Well, where?
Samuel Kamau. Yes, it does. 3 families want to rule Kenya forever, but Kenyans are now wiser. So, this is what we're looking at.
Okay. Okay. More and more comments coming in. Let's hear what you're saying. What do you think of this? Hustler versus dynasty. This is a conversation we were asking you. Does it hold water? Does it even make sense? Anthony was saying, this is representation. It's about where the most people are. Let's hear from Wellington in Vihiga. Good morning, Wellington.
Morning.
Morning.
How are you doing?
Very well, thank you.
Thank you.
Are you well?
Yeah, I'm doing good.
Very good. Hustler versus dynasty, what do you think?
Personally, I think the discussion does not hold water. Because if you look at, let's say, the likes of Mudama, Ruto, these guys are wealthy. Yeah, and if we come to the talks of the hustlers, if we look at the nomination they gave in Nairobi, Margaret Wanjiru is not a hustler. There are a lot of Mama Mbogas in Nairobi, Kibra. They could pick one and still in that position. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much, Wellington. Let's hear from Hussein in Nairobi. Good morning.
Good morning, guys.
Good
morning. Good morning, Hussein. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you guys.
Good to hear you this year.
I like the conversation today because that's what I've always wanted to talk about. Okay, if you look at the short-term nature of the hustler's narrative, and the reason why I'm saying short-term, look at the guys who have ascribed to the narrative, the guys who are in leadership. They actually out to enrich themselves. And once the law catches up with them, they are thrown out of office. So now look at also dynasties. We've survived on dynasties since independence. I have a friend of mine who is in Uganda and actually going through the elections, I think this week. And where actually Uganda has reached? The guy told me that, we no longer have a country, so let us ban and start over again.
Wow.
So now where we are heading to with this hustler's narrative is actually short-term I don't think that is something that can be sustainable for the youth. So my call for the youth is stop being selfish. This is not about you. It's about the generations to come. The hustler narrative is as dangerous as it is. And I don't think that as a country we can be able to sustain the kind of corruption and all manner of things that will come with it. Because, the hard-working ways of our forefathers have just disappeared. Like today, anyone can go to any position in leadership and you know what? All of a sudden,
there'll be a
they
millionaire.
are handling billions of budget and all that. So that's actually what hustler narrative is all about.
Okay. Thank you, Hussein. Thank you very much. Look forward to hearing from you more and more this year. Karanja in Naivasha. Good morning.
Good morning, Eric. How are you?
Salama kabisa, Karanja. How are you?
I'm very fine here in Naivasha.
Tell us about your thinking of this hustler dynasty narrative.
Let me say this. The dynasty issue, I have no problem with it, unless Kenyans have to look at it to the sense that when they think that somebody has been voted because of the dynasty, and he has his own interest. When we come to the issue of the business, they want to protect their businesses, they want to protect their area or everything. Look the issue of let me say about the leadership. Look the MP. People have the narrative of saying because somebody has been elected as an MP, and maybe the husband has died, they have to give the woman that seat because of the sympathy votes.
Yeah.
These are the problems that the Kenyans they are having, and they are swallowing the swap in. Then thereafter they started saying, "Oh, we voted somebody because he is a son of so and so." These are the problems that Kenyans have.
We created them.
I think voting somebody because of the sympathy vote, because his father, his mother, or maybe his
husband,
anything he has been. Yes, his wife. Let us give the sympathy vote. These are the things that they are making this Kenya worse than ever before.
Hear you, Karanja.
So, yes, I think we have people who are very good who can have leadership, and they are from scratches to riches. They can do better. And then we come to the issue of Hasura. This is to brand something. Yeah? Then it will be like what happened in 1978. Yes.
Thank you, Karanja. Have a good day.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Albert in Nairobi, good morning.
Hi, good morning, Eric.
Morning to you. Happy New Year, Albert.
You good?
Kabisa.
Happy New Year. I'm happy about the discussion this morning.
Right.
Yeah, about the dynasty stroke hustler narrative. I want to talk about the hustler narrative as compared to the dynasties.
Right.
We're talking about you having a leader, you having a system of leadership of a person who has no idea about how the simplest budget is run in a house.
Sure.
We are talking about a situation where we have Kenyans who are so hardworking, extremely hardworking, but look at what they take home at the end of the day. They are taking home peanuts. Where did the rest of the cake go? It has gone with the so-called dynasties because, I'm a good example. I want to say I must be the number one hustler as opposed to my dear friend, Mr. Ruto. I respect him and I'm his number one fan. Where we are all coming from, we are coming from a situation where you are seeing like you've got to do all manner of things to make ends meet. When you compare yourself in the same platform with a kid coming from a rich family, these guys have nothing to struggle with. No wonder.
Okay.
That's why sometimes they will not have so much to think about.
Thank you, Albert.
We are talking.
Thank you.
We are talking. Karibu
Asante
sana, my
sana.
brother. I will keep on following you.
We love you. Thank you very much. Simon in Nyeri, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you three doing?
Very
We are well, thank you. And how are you?
It's been a long time. I'm okay.
Good to hear you this
Yes.
side of the century.
Yes. Now the question you are putting forth is, does this hustler narrative hold water? And my answer is, it holds water only up to the ballot.
Okay.
In other words, what I'm saying is, it's as feudal and as populist as it appears. Now, I want to give an example. You remember somebody called Manuel Antonio Noriega of Panama.
Yep.
Although he was a military president, he came to power through that kind of populism. And that kind of populism involved the poorest of the poor. When he came to power, he used those people in peddling drugs until they were baptized in the Medellin cartel. Now, closer home, you remember somebody called Martin Shikuku? Martin Shikuku actually promoted a similar narrative, although it was at a micro level, at the constituency level. Today, as we are talking now, I don't know whether you know a friend who comes from Butere constituency. Butere is most likely one of the constituencies that is least developed in Western Kenya. Now, where am I going to? I'm saying we don't go to populism just for the sake of populism, because we may as well be taken advantage of. And once people take advantage of you and they realize that that is a point of weakness that can take advantage of for eternity,
They can exploit it forever.
they can exploit it forever. And the moment you come to realize, you will have gone so low.
Thank you very much.
Now, the last point is, we are talking about the hustler and the dynasty here. Where are the boundaries? Because there is no nation that is built by those people calling hustlers, and there is no nation that is built by the dynasties. It is the middle class that builds a country's economy. Now, to the people who are calling themselves hustlers, the middle class is part of that dynasty.
Okay.
Yeah. Let us not create a problem that will take us to the banana republic, to being the banana republic of South America, the republics of South America.
Thank you, Simon. Thank you very much for your contribution. We hope to hear more of you this year. Asante sana. Many comments also coming in on social media as we conclude. What is Ismail saying?
Sure. So Ismail says, the discussion is awesome, but I'm asking myself, if a boy becomes a man, and I think he meant a chick becomes a hen, what does a hustler become? Or is it once a hustler, always
a hustler?
A hustler?
Good point. Good question.
Yep, absolutely. It's got to lead somewhere, no?
Hey, all right. Thank you very much for your contributions this morning. Let's hear today's proverb and see how it relates to our conversations
Well,
today.
dine with a stranger, but save your love for your family. Balance. Prioritizing. Ensuring you know what comes before and what comes after.
Right.
Yes.
Well said and well put. Thank you very much for tuning into the Situation Room. We broadcast every weekday morning, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. on Spice FM. And then we are on KTN for 2 hours. We are online for the 4 hours. Join us again tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. Nduoko, CT Muga, and Eric Latif. Wishing you a lovely day. You'll have uninterrupted music between now and 3 o'clock. And then Monique will be here to take you home on Spice Drive. And then the adults in the room from 7 to 10. And then more